No, it is 62. 63 next in October. And my face feels like I got burnt today out in the sun. I wore a hat, but I mean, I wore a hat and I still.
I got their mic on, their phones off. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to come and enjoy the goings-ons of the downtown and the city of Graham. Call this meeting to order. I'm Mayor Jennifer Talley, and this is the June 10th, 2025 Graham City Council meeting. If I could get everyone to please bow their heads and join me in prayer. Lord, thank you for all you do for us. Thank you for the many blessings you bestow upon us. Please give us the wisdom to do as you would have us. Please give us the willingness to be able to listen to others, first and foremost, and be kind to one another. There's been a lot of loss lately, and it reminds us of how precious life is and how we should value it much more than many times that we do. Thank you for all that you've given us. Please keep us on the straight and narrow. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. If you'll please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to ask for Brian Fawcett and his staff to please come forward.
Stand right here. What else supposed to be?
So we just wanted the council as a whole, me personally, just wanted to personally thank you for all the hard work and effort it takes to go and put into a big event like Arts Around the Square. Heard a lot of really positive feedback. I think this is just the beginning of something that'll just get bigger and bigger each year. Glad we were able to dodge the rain. And it turned out to be a very successful event, and just want to know that you have our heartfelt thanks. Appreciate it. It's a lot of things that are behind the scenes that nobody ever knows about, that you guys just take it on the chin and just keep plugging forward. So I know it's sometimes frustrating, but we appreciate it.
Thank you, council, for the support and the monetary support, of course, but in all the other support with street closures and working through different things with businesses from downtown and ideas that you guys have had and gave to Emma as she prepared this event, and wanted to publicly thank the staff as well. Emma, especially, as you guys know, worked herself to the bone, I'm going to say. Backside off wouldn't be appropriate for a council meeting. And many of the other staff did as well. And yes, ma'am, it does go unnoticed for a majority of what they do. So thank you, guys.
I saw you guys all out there like throwing sandbags on, tents that were blowing away and just doing all kinds of stuff. You guys were like a jack of all trades out there, and I've heard nothing but good feedback about that event. I mean, Emma, kudos to you, Brian, all you guys. What a fantastic job you guys do in every way. Just want to say thanks.
Thank you.
I feel like we should do a Sears pose. Okay. Moving on to our first agenda item is the fiscal year audit presentation by Patricia Rhodes from Stout, Stewart, McGowan, and King. She'll come forward. If you could please come forward and present the audit. It's a light read.
Yeah, just a little night reading for everyone.
Got through this and went straight to bed.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to be here tonight. I am Patricia Rhodes. I'm with Stout, Stewart, McGowan, and King in Burlington. I have Joey Purgason from our firm with me, and also Becky Loy from Cobb Ezekiel Loy is with us tonight. We are the independent auditors for the city of Graham. And as the independent auditors, we work for you, the council. We work with the city staff on the audit. This is actually the 10th year of the arrangement with Becky Loy and Cobb Ezekiel Loy, who she works with the city finance staff and the city staff to streamline the year-end process and the financial statement preparation. Her firm also provides assistance during the year with accounting matters, which this past, for the fiscal year 2024 with the software conversion, that was a major task to undertake, and I believe they helped out with that. But Stout, Stewart, McGowan, and King works as the audit firm. And this arrangement works well because it solves an independence issue, because we as auditors cannot actually prepare the financial statements for the city of Graham. And so with this arrangement with Cobb Ezekiel preparing the statements, that takes care of the independence impairment. We have completed the audit for June 30th, 2024. Our audit opinion letter can be found on page 1 of the report there. Our opinion letter states that the preparation of the financial statements is the responsibility of management. The expression of an opinion on the financial statements based on the audit is the responsibility of the auditor. The financial statements were prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and the audit was performed in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. We are rendering an unmodified opinion, which is the best and cleanest opinion that you can receive. There was kind of a major change to the financial statements from the prior year. The garage fund was absorbed into the general fund. And so there's no longer a separate statement for the garage fund. And you'll see kind of there's a change in some of the numbers for the general fund, but we'll go over that. But that is the main reason is the garage fund was absorbed into the general fund. There were actually no new governmental accounting standards board pronouncements that were adopted during the fiscal year 2024. The management discussion and analysis that is on page 5 of the report is a overall summary of a very detailed report that is actually 107 pages long. So I just call your attention to that, to maybe start at the management discussion and analysis and start there and then move your way back to all this detail that is in the report. We do consider internal control during our audit. We are required to report to the council any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that come to our attention during the audit. Actually, nothing came to our attention that we were required to report to you, and there were no prior year findings that needed to be corrected. Now we'll look at a few pages in the financial statements. I'm going to start on page 15. This is the statement of net position. This is the overall statement for the entire city of Green. It's all funds, so it's the governmental activities and the business type activities. And if you can look on the total, I'm going to go on the total column. Total assets of the city is $172,594,000. Total liabilities for the city is $38,000. And then the net position, total net position for the city is $144,332,000. Now on page 17, which is Exhibit 3, this is the balance sheet for the governmental funds. And of course, the major funds, well, we had the general fund is always major, and the American Rescue Plan Fund. But I'm just going to talk about the general fund. So that first column there, you can see total assets for the general fund, $17,658,000, liabilities of $1,012,000. And then fund balances, the total fund balance for the general fund is $16,122,000. Of that, $11,286,000 is unassigned, and the available fund balance is $12,446,000, and that's actually 62% of the general fund expenditures, which is a pretty, that's a fairly healthy percentage compared to some other cities, maybe your size. They might be more of like the 40-45% range. And then I've even seen some that are, in the 20% range. So that's a pretty good percentage to be as far as the percentage of unassigned fund balance.
And the percentage was?
62% of the general fund expenditures.
And you're only required by the state to have 8%. Is that
That's correct. That's correct. Then on page 21, Exhibit 5, this is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, budget to actual for the general fund. Now this is the original budget is the first column, the original adopted budget for the June 30th, 2024, and then the final budget, which has some budget amendments in it. You can see total revenues were budgeted at $18,459,000. And the expenditures were budgeted at $20,412,000. So almost $2 million had to be appropriated from fund balance to make the general fund budget balance. And then there's the third column's the actual amounts. You can see revenues at $19,937,000 and expenditures at $19,966,000. And so there was about a $30,000 loss in the general fund before any finances, sources, or uses. Any questions so far? I know I'm kind of going quick through here. And then on page 22, this is the statement of fund net position, or a balance sheet for the proprietary funds, which is water and sewer fund, and then the water and sewer capital project funds are brought into this statement also. You can see total assets for the water and sewer fund is $122,055,000. Total liabilities at $10,706,000. And then the net position for the water and sewer fund is $111,836,000. And $15,710,000 of that is unrestricted. And then, excuse me, the next page, page 23.
Could you explain to people that are in the room that maybe doesn't understand the difference between restricted and unrestricted?
Well, as far as the water and sewer fund, you have to show net investment in capital assets pulled out of your unrestricted or your fund balance or net position. And that, you can see that's $95 million. So that's actually your capital assets less any debt that you have against those capital assets. And then a lot of your water and sewer capital projects, the fund balance has to be reserved, because it's reserved for a specific purpose. And so that would be the difference between the restricted. Yeah.
Okay.
On page 23, you can see this is the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund net position for the proprietary funds. Total operating revenues at $12,538,000, and the operating revenues or operating expenses at $9,332,000, and the operating income for the water and sewer fund was $3,206,000. Any questions? Okay. All right. We'll go on into the notes. I'll just draw your attention to some of the specific notes on page 36. This is the capital asset activity for the governmental activities. And you can see it's broken down as far as land, any construction in progress, and of course the different categories of the capital assets. Net of depreciation is listed. So the governmental capital assets net of the accumulated depreciation and any amortization is $26,320,000. And then on page 37, this is the business type activities listed. So the water and sewer fund. And remember, these are also capital projects, water and sewer capital projects that are in process too, and they would be listed under the construction in progress. So you can see capital assets, which is the land, and the construction in progress is $63,331,000. And then of course the capital assets and then the accumulated depreciation. So it all nets down to $99,930,000. And then the next page, on page 38, we have construction commitments. So you did have a lot of projects in progress during this year that we're talking about. And so you can see these are the construction commitments of the project, the actual project, and then what the remaining commitment is. And then on page 52, this is the changes in the long-term liabilities. You can see this is all the debt for the city, with broken down between governmental activities and the business type activities. So total activity, and of course this is also listing in the liabilities. There's pension liabilities, OPEB liabilities, which is health insurance, and lease liabilities. Okay, and now I'm going to go to, I have some graphs to take a look at. It goes into a little bit, shows you 10 years worth of data for the revenue and expenditures. And this detailed information you can find on page 62 of the audit report. I think, anyway, you can see on the, I'm not sure what part of the slides, it's probably past the financial statements. Oh, yeah, there we go. There we go. That's it. Okay, this is for the general fund, and this is on budgetary basis. The revenues, you can see that those 4 columns there. Revenues, like I said before, are $19,937,000. And that's an overall increase from the prior year revenues of $1.8 million. So about 10% increase in revenues from the prior year for the general fund. The expenses at $19,966,000 is about a $3.7 million increase, or about 23%. But you have to remember the garage fund got absorbed into the, so that's why there's a larger increase from the prior year on the general fund expenditures. The expenditures exceeded the revenue by $29,000. For tax revenue, of course, this isn't on the slide, but this is just a little bit more detail into the numbers.
Is
The
it
tax-
actually that close, $23,000?
29, no. Usually it's, you could see tracking
Yeah,
for the different
that's
years.
pretty tight there, Megan. There were some things that
She
you were
ra-
saying no to at the end of the year, weren't you?
She ran a tight ship that year. The tax revenue was up a little over $500,000 from the prior year. The tax collection rate remained high at 97.95%. And just part of the expenditure explanation, public safety is a fairly large part of your general fund budget. And there was an actual increase of about $1.351 million of the expenditures, or the actual expenditures for the public safety, and that's about 17%. The next slide is the water and sewer fund budgetary basis. This can be found on page 79 of the audit report. Total revenue for the water and sewer fund was $12,921,000, and that's about an overall increase of about $1,691,000, or about 15%. Expenditures were actually decreased overall. The total expenditures were $8,934,000, and they actually decreased about $116,000, or about 13%. The revenues exceeded the expenditures by $3,987,000, and there was an increase in the charges for services, which is part of the revenue, of a little over $1 million from the prior year, and connection fees were up a little over $340,000. Any questions on the graphs? It kind of gives you kind of a picture of 10 years, and so you can see definitely increase over each year expenditures because of inflation, growth, whatnot is increasing each year. Then the next slide is actually 3 years worth of data. It shows assets, liabilities for the general fund, water and sewer, and the Gray Memorial Park. It has some useful ratios that I'll just draw your attention to. Under the general fund, the operating expenses per day for the general fund is $54,703. So it costs $54,703 a day for the general fund to operate. And the number of days available in cash and investments, less any current liabilities, is 231 days. For the water and sewer fund, the operating expenses per day is $25,566, and the number of days available in cash, less current liabilities, is 183 days. And the last thing I just want to highlight on the slides is a letter. It's actually our letter to the council, just stating that we didn't have any problems communicating with during the audit. We had no problems performing our audit, and we had no difficulties or disagreements with management during our audit. I know that the city, as far as 2024 goes, had a very busy year with the software conversion and many water and sewer capital projects in progress. And so, overall, a lot to digest during the year as far as a lot of numbers. But the city ended up in a pretty good place. Again, I want to thank the council for allowing us to continue as the audit firm for the city. And I want to thank Megan, Aaron, and the finance staff for all their help during the audit. Any questions?
It's been brought up in some previous, meetings, about, about managers underestimating what their sales tax were, but we looked at that and
Mhm.
when we met and, the difference was only like 20-some thousand, is that right?
Well, I think, yeah, we did take a look at that when we were meeting, and it was actually, the local option sales tax was budgeted at $6,411,000, the final, no, excuse me, I'm sorry, budget is $6,200,000, and the actual number was $6,411,000, and so there was only like a $212,000 difference. So 212,000 out of 6.2 million, that's pretty close. That's pretty close.
That's pretty good budgeting.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Um,
Any other questions?
I just wanted to personally say, I know how difficult it is to switch over, accounting software. The previous accounting software the city has had since its inception, I believe, I don't know of any prior software. I think it's
think you're
from
right.
Flintstone age. They literally had a computer that did the fixed assets that I think was Windows 95 or something like that. Because the new software couldn't, anyways, they had to do a conversion. So, I think when we came on, it was either the first year we came on as council or maybe, I think it was the first year, we started making plans to, we gotta come up with something. This is not a good option and we need to upgrade. So, they have modules. And so we've taken each module and we've done, the accounting this year, payroll, right?
We started with tax and miscellaneous
Tax, that's
AR,
right.
I think in February of '23. November of '23 was finance. February of '24 was utilities. June of '25 was payroll. Everyone got paid from the first system, from the new system for the
We're
first
all
time.
holding our breaths.
Last
right.
week. Fixed assets is in the queue. It's been uploaded into the module and we're building it out now.
And how many phone calls would you say you made to,
Oh.
Edmonds?
I'd rather not answer that one.
It's a tough process to go through a conversion, especially a city the size of Graham. I mean, it's just a lot of, just a lot of numbers, it's just a tough conversion.
And
But,
what we were talking about earlier is there's just not a software program that really understands. Most accounting softwares don't have they don't have funds, they don't have garage funds or building funds, or they're not doing these big capital projects where they have to hold money almost in like a trust situation and then pay it out. And so it's really difficult to get the software that's not really structured
Mhm.
for what you need to do to be able to make it compliant with what the state requires you to do,
Correct.
accounting wise. So appreciate all your hard work. Appreciate Becky and her firm for all their hard work. Definitely appreciate Megan that she didn't quit and and leave. Because I know there's probably days that you felt like, I don't want to do this anymore. So we appreciate you sticking it out, and thanks, Aaron, for all your help as well with it. But we see a light at the end of the tunnel now, and we have. Isn't there another module that we still have to do?
Just to finish building out fixed assets.
Yeah. So
Definitely almost to the end.
I see, we see a light at the end of the tunnel, so that's good.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mhm. Any questions the council has? Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. A, to approve the May 13th, 2025 city council meeting and closed session meeting minutes and May 20, 2025 budget work session minutes. B, to approve a resolution adopting the Eno Hall River Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan to be eligible for FEMA funds in the event of disaster. C, to approve the following revisions to the City of Graham Personnel Policy, Section 6-7 Supplemental Retirement Income for non-sworn employees, Section 6-8 Supplemental Retirement Income Plan for sworn law enforcement officers, Section 7.7-6 Vacation Accrual Rate Chart, Section 7-15 Acceptance of Immediate Prior NC Government Employer Sick Leave Balance in Years of Service for Vacation Accrual Rates. D, to approve the following street closures for downtown programs in 2026. Alts Around the Square, closure of the 100 blocks of East and West Elm Street, 100 blocks of North and South Main Street, the public parking lot at the intersection of East Elm Street and Marshall Street, and the public parking lot on the 100 block of West Elm Street on Saturday, May 16th, 2026, from 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. No rain date set at this time. If they do decide to do a rain date, which we discussed at the prior meeting, that will come back to council, and we can do that at a later time. But these dates that I'm going to read here, the rec department has asked for us to approve them in advance so that they have plenty of time before the events to book people, because bands and things book pretty close to almost a year out. Thursdays at 7 concert series, closure of the 100 block of West Elm Street on May 28th, June 25th, July 23rd, August 27th, September 10th, and September 24th for the 2026 Thursday at 7 concert series. All closures will begin at 5 p.m. and reopen by 11:30 p.m. In the event of a concert must be postponed, we'll also request the same closure as above on the following dates: June 4th, June 11th, June 18th, July 2nd, July 9th, July 16th, July 30th, August 6th, August 13th, August 20th, September 3rd, September 17th, October 1st, October 8th, October 15th. Slice of Summer, block designated parking spaces, roughly 20 spaces on West Elm Street to install water hoses from fire hydrants to the attractions from 8 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. and closures of the 100 and 200 block of West Elm Street and 100 blocks of North and South Maple Streets from 1:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Saturday, June the 27th, 2026. No rain date set for that event. 9/11 commemorative 5K event, closure of the northbound lane of Maple Street from Pine Street to McCaden Street, from McCaden Street from South Main Street to Maple Street, the southbound lane of South Main Street from Pine Street to McCaden Street, Pine Street from South Main Street to Maple Street from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Saturday, September 12th, 2026. No rain dates. Pumpkin Bash, closure of the 100 blocks of East and West Elm Streets on Friday, October 30th, 2026, from 3 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. and North and South Main Streets from 4 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. No rain dates. E, to approve a budget amendment to allocate $40,000 in fund balance appropriation to non-departmental professional services. F, to approve a capital project ordinance in the amount of $490,000 for the Hardin Street Waterline Replacement Project. G, to approve tax refunds in the amount of $7,520.26 and tax releases in the amount of $126.17. That's the consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, make a motion, we approved it. Consent agenda.
Okay, any questions from anybody? Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Public hearings. The rezoning of 6.27 acres off Ivy Road and East Gilbert Street. Thank you. recognize Assistant City Manager Aaron Holland.
Thank you, Mayor. I bet you I'd be quicker than you on this one. They were actually requesting that this item be tabled until next month. They were working out, I think they were able to get some good news as far as that stream goes. And you would be able to come back next month for that meeting.
That is
Okay. So their request is to table it until the July, I think it's July 8th meeting.
Are the changes so dramatic that it needs to go back through planning, or is it like, what are the, do you,
Thank you, Mayor Talley and Council. My name is Andy Shaver, representing my team for the project. It's not about changes. We did make some changes based on the meeting in February,
okay,
which you'll be pleased to see, I think, when we come next month, if you'll, give us this time to get here. The Army Corps of Engineers, the upshot is that a jurisdictional review was supposed to take a very short period of time. And that took a very, very, very unusually long period of time. And we felt it was in our best interest and everybody's best interest to just have that issue cleared up. It has been, the jurisdictional review is done.
okay.
There's no permit
So it's
required.
been delayed based on you waiting on someone else to give you some,
That is
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
And then the local concurrence essentially over that issue occurred just last week. We finally put this to rest just last week, which was a surprising period of time. A cynical person would perhaps suggest that engineers, are find ways to find more work for themselves, but we're glad for what has happened. And we should be really, we're ready. Our team has confirmed to me that July 8th, everyone can be here. Amanda, who you know, plus our engineer Frank, myself, and my business partner.
well, we appreciate you taking our input and coming back with something that hopefully will be a better project for both, not just the city of Graham, but for you as well. And we look forward to hearing back from you.
Thank you for your patience, and we apologize for all those delays and perhaps not communicating those things as well as we could have or should have. But we thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much. Do I hear a motion from the city council to table this item until the July 8th, 2025 city council meeting?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion, we table this event until the July meeting,
Mhm.
July 8th meeting.
Madam Mayor, make a second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Rezoning of 0.51 acres on Marshall Street.
All right, thank you again. Again, we have another item that has a request to be tabled from the petitioner until the July 8th meeting as well.
Is there any reason for the delay?
I have not heard the reason. I'm not sure if anyone from that item is here tonight. I know Jason was the one that we spoke with on past occurrences, but no, I don't know if there's a specific reason why you're taking.
Anna reached out and asked for something.
Yeah, the planner did reach out and the applicant was unable to attend or unsure if he was going to be able to attend due to being off somewhere on a flight and wasn't sure he was going to make it back in time. I think their request was to table it till July.
So, Aaron, I think I had discussed this with you earlier. This has been on the agenda since January. Is that correct?
There used to be like, I don't know if it
Main-
was a rule, and I thought it was like 3 times, and then they have to go back through the process.
I'm not sure
Unless-
about.
Unless
yeah.
they come
I
and
know the
give some
planning board
explanation as to.
Denied it 6-0, I think, the first time when they went before the planning board, but so the applicant hasn't been able to attend for 6 months.
Yeah, we haven't
And we-
received the reason from him yet.
I mean, I get it that he might be out of town this time, but what about the other 5 times? I mean, Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we table it to the July 8th meeting. The caveat that we won't likely table it again, that it'll just be denied the next time if nobody shows up.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Please inform the applicant. Joint annexation ordinance, Burlington Graham Racetrack Road. A public hearing has been continued to consider approving an ordinance and a memorandum of understanding for a joint annexation agreement between cities of Graham and Burlington for the area of Racetrack Road. I'm going to recognize our Assistant City Manager, Aaron Holland, in this regard.
Thank you, Mayor. At the direction of council, we were asked to reach out to an attorney to review the agreement, just to make sure that what was in it between Burlington and Graham was something that would be good for you guys to look over. It took a while for us to be able to land on an attorney that could look over that agreement, but we did get with an attorney actually today, and we're able to move
Who's the
forward.
attorney?
Paul Kuntz.
Okay.
So he's
The
going,
conflicts?
does he have any conflict?
Yeah.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe so. But we did reach out to maybe 2 or 3 other firms. They just weren't able to get back with us.
No, he's a great lawyer,
Mhm.
as long as he didn't have any conflicts. Okay.
So we should have this on the agenda for next month as well.
Yeah. He's a very well-respected attorney.
Very thorough.
Yeah, he's very good. Very pleased to have him. Okay, need a motion to table this for consideration for a July 8th, 2025 city council meeting.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we move this to our July 8th meeting.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Rezoning 24.18 acres, Jim Minor Road. A public hearing has been scheduled to consider rezoning 24.18 acres of property from unzoned CR conditional residential to construct a maximum of 143 townhomes located on Jim Minor Road. Gonna recommend, the planning board recommended approval 4-1. And I'd like to recognize Assistant City Manager Aaron Holland.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'm gonna try to pull this site plan up. They actually have a presentation that they want to do, but I'm gonna go ahead and set this up so that they can get on to their presentation. As you said, this is a request to rezone 24.18 acres of property from unzoned to conditional residential for the purpose of constructing a maximum of 143 townhomes. The site plans to have public roadways and connect to water and sewer through the existing utilities surrounding the property. The development falls in around 5.9 dwelling units per acre, which meets the appropriate density in the suburban residential land use zone of 3 to 6 dwelling units per acre. The applicant has requested a condition to reduce the width between buildings from 25 feet to 20 feet. Outside of that condition, all aspects of the residential multifamily zoning district are being met. Since the development is over 5 acres in size, the applicant was required to provide open space within the development, and all areas can be found on the site plan. As you mentioned,
What was the one condition that you said that they had to, that they asked?
they were requested to reduce the width between the buildings from 25 to 20. Now, planning board had recommended conditions at their meeting for lots 1 through 10 shall only be 2 stories. Amenities are to include only a pickleball court, dog park, and child play area with equipment, a 3-foot tall berm, and 8-foot tall evergreen plantings along entire frontage of Jim Minor, as well as other planting requirements. A 3-foot tall berm and evergreen plantings along the left side of the property until it meets the sewer easement, as well as other planting requirements. Council can accept, if they move to approve this, they can accept all the conditions, some of the conditions, or none of the conditions. But if any of these conditions you want to move forward with, the applicant would have to agree with it in order for it to move forward. So
So the planning board is recommending all 3 of those things, the pickleball, the
correct.
dog park, and the
Well,
playground?
for it to be of one of those options.
Just one of those options or all those options? One?
Mhm.
Okay,
They just limited what it could possibly be
Okay.
for that. Obviously, the applicant would have to agree to that if that's something that you would.
I thought they were trying to get them to do all of them.
yeah, that's what I thought. That's the way it sounded to me.
Pretty
So-
sure
I-
they
and I-
were
When I watched it,
I didn't
That's what I-
realize they had
They were
enough space to do all that.
going for the gusto.
Well, I didn't think they
Yeah.
had enough space to do all of it. I thought it was pick one.
well,
No,
Well,
No, that
I
would
see
be-
they were thinking the same thing too, but
yeah, I thought it was all of them. That's the way I took it.
a little tight.
Yeah, I don't see how that's,
Yeah, it's a
Okay,
little tight.
but-
But
okay.
so that's all I have, and I can answer any questions, but I would turn it over to them because they do have a presentation they would like to do.
Come on up, we don't bite.
Yeah, I was getting loaded up for 'em.
My name is Scott Crucell. I am a project engineer from Venterra. Good evening, members of the council. I am here today as the engineer of record for the Jim Minor Road Townhome subdivision. It is a 143 unit townhome development that we are looking for rezoning and annexation from you tonight. The site is located in southeast Graham, just outside of city limits, not inside the ETJ. It is connected and adjacent to the city limits by the Cherry Creek subdivision. We are looking to get annexed for the density requirements, as well as providing the city with a larger municipal limit and tax-based growth, excuse me. We are looking for a conditional residential zoning. We believe that's an appropriate zoning for this area, as there are two other conditional residential developments in the same area. We have Cherry Creek to the north of us and Riley's Meadow to the east of us. When we started looking at this site, we looked at the 2035 comprehensive plan that you guys have provided for us. We're in the employment district. Being in the employment district, we're looking at, commercial, office, institutional, as well as residential. We're on the edge of the employment district and adjacent to the suburban residential land use. We're also surrounded by other residential uses, so it kind of has to be a residential development, in our opinion. So doing a residential development, then of course look at the recommended appropriate density, which we have at 6. We're coming in just a bit under that at 5.9. 5.9 is an appropriate density for the employment district as well as the adjacent district, but it is a bit dense, so we wanted to show why that's needed. In 2024, there was a TVJ article talking about how we need 200,000 additional units inside the Carolina core. Again, in 2024, they had a North Carolina supply gap analysis for every county in the state, and Alamance County came at 8,206 of a gap, and that's not just, existing inventory versus incoming population growth. That is anticipating inventory growth as well. So obviously 143 units alone isn't going to fix that problem, but it's a good step in the right direction. We're currently proposing 3-bedroom townhomes, 2 stories, approximately 1,550 square feet. And we're looking at a price range in around 300. We will have an HOA. We took the time to get a professional rendering of our site. So both the architectural building element of this, as well as the actual land development, the streets, and everything like that, grading, are accurate. There's things here and there that are artistic license, I'm sure, but it's going to be fairly accurate to what would go out there in this current plan. We came up with all these conditions that I'm going to talk about through our own personal goals. I've lived in a townhome development before, so I have personal experience with some of these challenges. We met with the neighbors. We had a neighborhood meeting. I invited 18 households to come out. We only had one attendee, but we got some good advice from them. And we have been listening to staff as well as, of course, the council and other townhomes that have been approved that you guys might have had some misgivings about how it might have went down, as well as other townhome developments that have come by recently that you've had comments on. The biggest one for any townhome development, but I think especially maybe here in the recent past, has been parking. So we wanted to come kind of strong on parking so that you guys don't have to ask us to go strong on parking. So we're adding, 50% over the required, which is 2 per townhome unit. So we're gonna do 3 on site. We're providing those 3 with 1 garage spot and 2 driveway spots. The driveway spots are going to be a 17-foot width driveway with enough depth that you can park your car without, overhanging the sidewalk.
So when you say depth, we had talked about having two cars could park behind each other and still be in the driveway. Is that correct?
Side by side.
I think just side by side.
They're gonna be side by side. I think that you could feasibly do that on some of the lots, but not all of them. I talk a little bit about sidewalks too here coming up, and I'll touch a bit on that, but we worked to put the sidewalks on one side of the road so that there's less conflict, but beyond that, strategically place them in the buildings so that there's as little sidewalk conflict as possible. So we have 26 townhome pods, and only 6 have that driveway conflict. As well as some on the curves are gonna have longer driveways, but in the worst case scenario, you would not be able to do, let's call it 4 driveway spots without overhanging the parking, but there are some where honestly, you could fit 4 cars, but as a minimum, no.
How many? I know you said not all of them, but how many of them would allow to have the?
I don't know if
4
I have a
spots?
number for you, but everyone on the curve, you can kind of see it here where these are gonna be pretty deep. And the way it's gonna work is it'll be 17 feet for quite a while, enough to put the 2. And then on some of the lots, it'll edge down to maybe a normal driveway size at the frontage. But some of them also won't, it just depends. These are accurately shown to how I have them shown right now. You can see that these go that 17-foot width all the way through. This one, for example, it's gonna be tough to see doesn't. But again, you have at the very least 3 easily there, I would say. But anything on the curve is going to be a little bit easier. Anything without sidewalk on it, like this entire row and this entire row and everything on the outside, are gonna be easier at the very least. But it's not set up for 4 driveway spots.
It's when you don't have the mix, when you have everything there that's 3-bedroom, and then somebody has a birthday party. I mean, simple things, not even like not even a big party, but just like literally a birthday party. It just, all the neighbors are complaining, the roads are, blocked up because 4 or 5 cars are in the street.
So
So that's where we start getting the complaints and
Yeah.
then people get upset.
We are doing more than just the 3 spots per, and the 3 spots again is the worst case. We do have quite a few that are gonna be better than that. We have a 19-car parking lot here. So we have the CVUs there, and the CVUs, I believe, are gonna require 6 of those spots. So if you wanted to completely get rid of those, even though, of course, a guest could park there, they're not gonna have a reserved CVU parking sign. If you got rid of those, then that would be 13 extra spaces that are for maybe a resident on the west side wants to go play pickleball and is anticipating being tired driving back. They could easily do that. But of course, those are also for guests.
What about the road width?
That's the next part. The road width is beyond the minimum. We have 31-foot wide roads. We're not going to say you're allowed to park on them. However, you could park on them and the roads will still function well. I had the vision when I was going over this of when I lived in townhome development of people loved to not park their U-Haul in their driveway, and instead park it on the road when they're moving in and out. And so that would help. That would help a lot for that, just to allow the roads to function appropriately while that happens. So those are our 3 things to mitigate the parking problem. 50% greater, just baseline on lot. A 19 space parking lot, which is 13 over the minimum that would a CBU pod require, as well as the 31-foot wide streets. So this is what I was talking about on the sidewalks. I won't go over it twice, but out of the 26 pods we have here, we only have driveway conflicts on 6 of them, which I'm pretty proud of that number. Took a little bit of doing, but that's pretty okay. So those kind of overhang conflicts will only occur potentially on 6 of the 26 lots. We're also providing sidewalk along the entire frontage of Jim Minor Road. For density, as I said before, we're looking at 5.9, 143 units on 24.22 acres, consistent with the comprehensive plan. For traffic, we were not required to do a TIA. However, we met with DOT as a part of our TRC process. And as part of that TRC process, they recommended a left turn lane at each of our entrances. So that's 2 left turn lanes and the widening associated with that. We were happy to provide that. As a part of that, we're going to also do curb and gutter on the entire frontage of our site. Landscaping and buffering. So this was the big change that came out of our neighborhood meeting. The ordinance requires only 8 feet of a front yard, what is it called, street planting yard. That seems a little low, and especially how there are no understory trees. So that was something that we wanted to kind of be strong on. So we have a 35-foot width, as well as 6 per 100 feet of understory trees versus the 0 required, just so that if you're driving, it'll look a little more natural, look a little more lush, a little more forested. And if you're living in one of those townhomes, you're looking at trees instead of a driveway or a roadway. And it's good audio buffer as well. We're also going a little stronger on the shrub, just a little. For the rest of the boundaries, we are doing a type C buffer, and that's just the buffer that's required by the ordinance. We are committing to retain as many existing trees as possible. I think there was a comment at the planning board talking about how it says where possible, where is possible. So, you could cut them all down and say it was all impossible. But if you look at our grading plan, we have graded not into the buffer on all except for one place, I believe. And that place is where the sewer has to go. So we can't plant trees there anywhere because it's an easement. So I just wanted to say that we have planned around saving these trees. We're not just saying that and going to clear cut everything. That is something that we have been doing intentionally this entire time. We are also adding a little bit of supplemental landscaping inside. So that would be, additional trees, between the buildings, near the dog park, near the parking lot, that kind of thing. Open rec space. This is another one we felt like we were going to go above and beyond on. So the minimum is 10%. We're committing to 30%. We do have a stream in the back, and someone made a comment during the planning board that a lot of that is a stream. It is. However, we also are doing the SCM, the stormwater control measure. We are doing a bioretention pond. So this is accurate in that it's going to kind of look like a field, essentially a depressed field. It'll just look like a sodded field, except around rain events, when then it'll be filled with water, but it's not going to be a wet pond like you see at a lot of developments. We also are doing the rec space. There's none required for the city ordinance. So again, we wanted to take that, at least some of that financial cost of bringing 143 families in and providing them recreation. We wanted to put that a bit on ourselves, as well as, providing a good neighborhood. From a recreation place, our open space, rec space is nice. However, it's also really nice for the potential future residents that were a couple 100 feet away from the Graham Regional Park. So that's a good thing for this development as well. We can talk about the actual planning board recommendation. I don't think we want to do that, to be completely honest with you. We want to do in what we're showing here, which is a gazebo, a pickleball court, well, 2 pickleball courts, and a dog park. We have a list in the conditions of what would be allowed to put in there to meet that standard. I don't want us and the future HOA to be limited to 3 uses and have no flexibility whatsoever. However, if there was a couple things in there that the council members thought wasn't appropriate or they didn't want, we'd be happy to strike a couple of them. But this is what we want to do: a gazebo, pickleball courts, and a dog park. Planned growth. So we're a bit away from city utilities, so we have to extend those quite a bit. And we kind of just wanted to talk about those a little bit and the public good that comes of it. So we're extending the sewer line 1,600 feet across the creek just to the north of us and providing city sewer access to the property to the west of us. Similarly, we are extending the sewer another 150 feet beyond our own project to provide the manhole connection to the property to the south of us. And the big one, in my opinion, is the water line that we're bringing 2,000 linear feet up from Riley's Meadow. And not just the water line and the potential access that allows, but we are going to add, I think, 5 side fire hydrants along the Jim Minor Road, which will be great for public safety as well as hopefully insurance costs coming down. Some of the architectural conditions, again, this is a rendering that we had done that accurately reflects all of these conditions and what we want to put out there. Minimum 22-foot wide townhomes. I think this one is exactly 22.7. So I just rounded it down a little bit. Covered front porches, 5 foot deep. 5 foot is strong, a little bit larger than you might see some, just so that your family can be dry if it's raining and you're trying to unlock your door. Projecting eaves, similar to the covered front porches, just provides a little visual dynamism, a little more interesting to look at. A front facade mix of cementous board, masonry, stone, shake, and shake and board and shake and board and batten. Board and batten, my favorite. We are not going to do vinyl on the sides. We're going to make it a little nicer, so we're limiting ourselves to wood, brick, stone, cementous board. Garage doors, again, we want to make them look a little nicer, a little more high class. So we have the garage doors to include decorative paneling, windows, and hardware. Architectural shingles, minimum roof pitch of 5 to 12. And we're also going to do a color and or material deviation between contiguous units just to make it look a little more visually interesting, a little more attractive. And we're doing all this because, well, one, we're local developers. Our office is here in Graham. We want the local area to be nice. And two, we have competitors in the area. This is a picture of Riley's Meadow. So we're really trying to be a step above our competitors, just in looking nicer, so that we can get the business as well as providing good product to the community. And I have no more slides. So I would love to answer any questions you guys might have.
I love the biofield rather than having the pond, the erosion control ponds. I think they're terrible. I know they're a necessary evil, but I think aesthetically for the community, that looks so much nicer. I'm still concerned about the two, the picture there of the two rows that are close together.
This one?
Yeah, the first two, yeah, those two. That, is there any possibility, or is there some, is it possible to be able to move the townhomes back further to be able to get more parking, at least on one side?
Honestly, not really. So you would have the parking on this side up here. These two back to back, no.
That's what I was worried about. I wasn't worried about the third one
Yeah,
because like what you say,
yeah,
but
and the reason I say that is a 31-foot width road. Obviously, since it's parking on, since there's townhomes on both sides, it would be a little harder to have a potential on-street parking. And maybe some on the sides over here. I think that would be reasonable. One maybe in between each townhome on each side. Not crazy. However, if you look at our grading plan, which I think I can get to real quick. This is the floodway back here, and we're almost touching it, and we can't grade into that. So that's like a hard stop. So we really don't have any more room to widen or space out the lots.
so how, like, if you go back to that other picture, how much is there, I guess what's the space between the back of that second row and the start of the next third row?
So if you look here, it's a little hard, maybe it's easier to come here. So the way that we have the property spaced out, the property lines are back to back.
Okay.
Sorry. I had the number at one point. So between the actual buildings, because what you're seeing here isn't the building outline, that's the building setback line.
Mhm.
So the buildings are going to be quite pulled in from that. So like that's the building setback line, and then we have a patio shown here, and I wish I knew that number off the top of my head. It's somewhere between 10 and 20 feet between that. So essentially, we're doing is we're having the end of the building. It's going to be the patio, 14 feet of flat area, which I think I have at 4% slope down. And then it'll be 3-to-1 in between the two buildings. I mean, I guess all that to say that it's not going to visually look like they're back to back too bad. It'll have a nice spacing, but in terms of actually like changing it because of the property lines, I don't know if I can actually do that.
I'm just curious, what are the price points going to be on these? I'm just asking out of curiosity.
Yeah, so when I said around 300, I meant like around 300,000, not like in the 300s.
So not like 350,000 or 370,000?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it would depend on how quick we build them and the market in general, but that's
Okay.
what we're targeting at this point.
Okay.
Aaron, at Raleigh Meadows, the width of the road is at what?
It's 25, isn't it? At 21.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then they only have one car garage, right? And one driveway, is that right?
That is true.
Yeah, I think you can only get like one car in that driveway at Riley's Meadows. Yeah, that's it. That's why they have a problem.
And in terms of actual spacing, I believe that we have the same frontage setback. So our worst case would look similar to that in terms of depth from the sidewalk to the building. But again, that's just the worst case scenario. And we have a lot of other ones that are much better. Just 6 out of 26 are that. And it's 17-foot width driveway. So it is better than that, even on the worst case.
And I know I'm not suggesting it for this project, but for future projects, you guys are local developers, and one of the things that they talk about in the comprehensive plan is that they like to see the driveways and the garages in the back of the home rather than the front of the home. And especially like when you deal with something that has a lot of density, there was some thought behind that. If you look at, I didn't come up with that in the comprehensive plan, but I understand where they were going with that. But when you look at Cherry, what's the Old Fields? Have you been in there? See what they?
I don't believe so.
So the homes are fronting, they're closer to the,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know the concept you're talking about, even
right,
if I
and
don't
then
know the
the
development.
driveway's basically behind
Mhm.
the road goes behind the home for you to park.
Yeah, it's like a little alley almost.
Right.
Yeah.
Aesthetically, it really looks
Yeah.
great. And I think it lends itself to maybe have, I think, a little bit less controversy or complaints or whatever about people parking in the road and stuff like that. It seems like when people, I don't know, it seems more of like, I don't want to say this, but it seems like more of like a parking lot behind your house. It's not, because I mean, you have all these cars. I mean, when you look at Riley Meadows, people go, it's a parking lot down there. It looks like a parking lot. It looks terrible, you know? So I think aesthetically, just something to think about for
Yeah.
the future. It's just something that's in there, and whenever we look at multifamily, it's just something that we do consider. So the amenities that you're wanting would be the pickleball courts, the dog park, and the gazebo. Where's the gazebo?
The gazebo is on the west of the site. Let me get back to it. There we go. So it's that left arrow.
Okay. And so you had mentioned on here that you'd have, benches. Is that something that you would look to do in addition to those? Or you're
Yeah,
saying
so
instead?
I think literally shown on here is a small little grill area too.
Okay,
I kind of have the three main amenities called out, but if we need to put something in this little triangle.
well, you said dog park, and then one of the things was dog waste.
Yeah, so
Thing. I'm like, those would kind of go hand in hand, I would assume.
yeah, so we would definitely, I can imagine, you would have one dog waste center inside the park as well as, let's just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 total around the development as well.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something like that, I mean, to be completely honest with you, we wanted to do this and I copy and pasted a list of potential uses in a park. And that was on there. If there's stuff like that that doesn't necessarily make sense for you guys, because I could see how a different developer might put one single dog waste bin in there and say, hey, that's in half of an acre, so we're done. Obviously, that's not what we're intending to do, but we're not going to do that. We're probably going to come back in front of you guys eventually, and we don't want to be seen as a bad developer for a lot of reasons. But again, that's kind of why I said if there's things that we would strike because you think that we might try and take advantage, even though we wouldn't, I'm happy to, and we would agree with that.
When you say dog waste, are you talking about the little
The
boxes that you
receptacles,
can?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. No,
And,
what you're proposing is one.
yeah,
That's just at the park though, right?
There would be multiple across the
Yeah.
site, but there would be one inside
Just
the
one at
park.
the park is what he's saying, but there'll be other ones throughout,
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
like we have in
You're
our
referring
neighborhood.
Like
Yeah.
we got-
the
yeah.
park being the green space? in
the
middle?
dog park is this one here.
Oh, right there.
This would count as open space, but it would
Yeah.
not count as active recreation space.
You had mentioned Frisbee disc golf.
Mhm.
Would that be in that big, are you able to put that on the bio? Or not?
We could put it near the bio thing. I don't think we could put it in the bio thing.
Okay.
Being Graham Regional Park is not that
Yeah.
far away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I'm asking them to put in a Frisbee course or.
I'm not-
even
I'm
just-
not asking. I think they were just,
Yeah, I mean,
these were
but-
suggestions that they have. I just didn't know if that's.
to be honest, I could see like, not a whole course, obviously,
I mean,
right?
but-
Right.
But like a single one, I mean, that kind of sounds fun, just to go out and go.
Yeah, but how far away is Graham Regional Park?
I think when we measured it last meeting, it was 400 feet.
pretty close.
Yeah, it's diagonal. I think it's, depending on if you count the right of way or not, it's one property away.
So you're limiting it to 2 stories instead of 3 stories, HOA.
So can I clarify?
Mhm.
We are okay with that 2-story minimum, maximum on lots 1 through 10. And 1 through 10 are these 2 pods, for clarification. We're happy to do that, but that is not the entire site limited to 2.
And that was because of the private houses that
Yeah.
are behind there, so
Yeah,
they wouldn't feel
I'm not sure,
encroached
I'm not
upon.
sure if the neighbor is here today, but this neighbor to the west came out during the planning board and we had
Yeah.
talked about that with her then.
Okay.
So some of the buildings, if I read it correctly, could be 3 stories.
Yes. And we, as I said, we're intending to do 2 stories. The architectural conditions that we have agreed to would count no matter if we did 2 or 3 stories. However, we do think that there should be some potential market flexibility. This is a decently sized site, so market
So
shifts.
if there
might
was
happen.
enough interest, you'd have you might have a building that was actually 3 stories.
Mhm.
All the units would be 3 stories.
Yeah.
How would that affect your number of bedrooms?
Um, I mean, it would, I guess there would be nothing stopping us from doing 4-bedroom units. I don't know if that would be our intention, and that's kind of not my, I don't know, I'm not the builder, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I wouldn't know what kind of calculations they would do for that, but I would say that I guess they would be allowed to do 4 bedrooms.
How you get back into the
And you get into a
Parking
parking
issue.
situation, yeah, that's not good.
Good evening. My name is Sean Cummings, and I'm the also representative for Venterra. I just wanted to maybe give a couple clarifying points. If we were to go to 3 stories, the only reason we even want to have that as an option is just in case the real estate market changes, there's a demand for larger units. We would be fine keeping a condition of 3 bedrooms, not going up. I don't think we want to go up. Then you will have a parking problem. We would just make the units larger, so you'd have larger rooms, not more bedrooms. Number 2 point I just want to confirm is that even where Scott talked about like potential conflicts in the curves and other spots, at a minimum, every single unit would have 3 parking spots. So 2 in the driveway, 1 in the garage. So we won't have less than 3 anywhere. There's some that will actually be able to fit 4. But I think from our perspective, we think a minimum of 3 makes a lot of sense. I used to live in McIntosh in the Lake across from a townhouse section. And at that point, they were private roads and they were even smaller than Riley's Meadow Roads. And they always had parking problems. And so I can't say I lived it as a resident, but I lived it as a neighbor. And my wife and I and kids would walk through there. And we saw that and heard the complaints because I'm also on the Master Association board. And so we recognize that here, 31 feet, I think is really probably, I'm going to say it as a minimum standard, I think, for townhomes, because it's an issue for the townhome unit owners and residents. So we're trying to, in our opinion, we're trying to provide a context-sensitive solution to that by having wider roads, having the 3 parking spots, having the, depending how you look at it, 13 or 19 spots next to the amenity center. We will, I think, you know, our goal is to make Graham and the whole community proud of what we're doing, not to do a lower product. In fact, this product really hurts profitability by doing it this way in terms of the cementous siding, the overhangs, the 30-year architectural shingles, and some other things. But we also think that's the right decision to do, and we're willing to forego profits to do the right thing when it makes sense. And generally, it will make sense, I think, in business to do so. And we also think that leaving these potential amenity options for the HOA later makes some sense, because things can change where maybe you have, for instance, at the planning board before, we were asked to agree to put a child play area in initially. We're not opposed to that for any reason from a cost standpoint. We would be opposed to that for limiting that for the future, meaning if you limit the amenities to only 3 things, if later that mix of folks that live here changes and there's a lot less kids there, the HOA would be then mandated to replace that child play area in the future if it has a maintenance issue, which at some point it would. And so that's why we're sort of suggesting more flexibility. Our plan will be to put the double pickleball courts in, the dog park, the gazebo area, some grills around the bioretention area, to have benches, and the pickleball courts will be lighted, so they'll be able to be used at night. And also still have some space that in the future, there's a couple of spots Scott could show you, but a child play area can also go in so that they won't be limited or have to take something away in the future. As an example, they wouldn't have to take away the dog park to have a child park. They could simply put the child park in here on the right in the 3rd row. The other thing that's hard to see here, but I do want to mention, is that between the back of the buildings, Ertali, you asked about the separation. It's 50 feet, 25 feet from the back of each building to the property line. So it's 50 feet total. So it's actually it's a lot larger than what you see. And the other thing that we did do that I do want to mention is,
So 50
sorry.
foot from the structure to the back lot line?
structure to structure is 50 feet.
Oh, structure to structure. Okay, so
Yep.
a 25-foot backyard.
Yep. And so the other thing that we agreed to do, and we've talked to both neighbors actually that are impacted more directly by our subdivision. So Lisa Baker, who is across the street from us, we talked with Lisa after the planning meeting and just, she didn't want to have us do this, but we did tell her that we're happy in the future to put some landscaping in, even across her yard, to help block the views, if that comes to that in the future. And then also we talked with Angela Willis, who's adjoining us to the west. And we have said the same thing, but I think Angela is more thinking she may take us up on this than Lisa, that we would put some additional landscaping on our property line, her property line, to try to mitigate the effects of what we're doing, because we are coming in and disturbing her privacy, I would say. And that's another reason why we agreed to limit the height of those two buildings as well, because we do see that that could be an issue for her as an adjoining neighbor
And
to
that's
the
on the
west.
left-hand side, right?
Yes,
That's
Mayor.
1 through 10, you said?
Yes. In your HOA rules, are you going to allow residents to build privacy fences or? Yes, that's correct, but we're going to limit them to the exact same fence, so they'll all have to be identical, because we think that when you don't have that, you create a architectural negative look. Yeah. And then one thing I will note on that, so we'll have common maintenance of all the landscaping. What's typical though is if you do put up a fence, you have to give either the landscaping company permission to come inside your fence to mow, and then you have to have the area clean, or you have to take it over yourself if you don't want to give them permission to come inside that fence area. And I think most people, we're actually thinking that the builder's probably going to put fences on every single one. I think just aesthetically that makes sense. And then the other thing that we are including on the building plans is an outdoor storage area attached to all of the townhomes, which, as Scott will tell you, is it's small, but it's a bonus for the people that live there. They'll be able to store some things additionally. As you and I know, most of the garages are going to get filled up as well. They're not going to have cars in them, unfortunately. And so that's another reason we thought the 2-car spaces make sense, because a lot of people at least have 2 cars. And then we thought a small outdoor attached storage unit to the townhomes does 2 things. It actually helps a little bit with privacy to the next door neighbor, and it also helps obviously provide, again, it's limited. I don't want to overstate that, but it is some exterior storage. Now, they won't need any lawn equipment, et cetera, because it'll be common maintenance of all the landscaping in the lawn. So you won't have any of that kind of equipment, but you could have a grill, something like that you store in the winter in there.
Can you tell me a little bit about your lighting?
We don't have a lighting plan at this point, honestly. We are going to go through Duke probably and get a lighting plan.
We will have decorative lighting. So our every single street light will be decorative that we'll pay for. They won't be the standard wooden poles. We're not going to do that in any development we develop. We just think it's again, a step up a step in aesthetics for that neighborhood.
With having the amenities right there at the homes, I can foresee people being out there playing pickleball past dusk or whatever, using it almost looks like a track,
Yep.
around the biofield, using that. So it's just, that'll all be well lit and.
It'll be very well lit. We're going to light the pickleball courts, but we'll also have an automatic timer on it that it'll shut off generally by either 8 or 9, depending on the night, which I think is an important thing for the neighbors as well.
Yeah. You're a president of a HOA. What sort of like
Not anymore, but I was.
the issues with, it's like you said, a child play area. Sounds great as long as it's not next to my unit. I mean, I'm just saying, you know, that's what people, they think, oh, it's a great idea, but then they don't want it like right outside their window. They
It
might
comes with a
love
lot of maintenance
pickleball,
as well.
but they
so-
may not want to hear,
Pickleball either. Right.
yeah, you know,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying?
Like,
Absolutely.
it would be, if you
So
don't
I
want to
like
hear
the
it,
idea of
buy
like
those
stopping
units.
it at like a reasonable hour at 9 o'clock so that
Right.
they're not out there and you
Exactly.
hear people till midnight or whatever.
Right. And for the child play area, again, we feel like that's something that later the residents can vote on and do themselves rather than us kind of pushing it on
Yeah.
them. And then I think for the pickleball courts, there will be full disclosure, particularly on the interior units with our real estate firm that says, you know, they're going to, you know, we're going to install pickleball courts. So I mean, to me, if that's an issue for you, you don't want to live in that adjoining area if that's going to be something that's going to disturb you. I mean, as you all know, you make decisions and you try to do them for the best of the community, but you'll never get unanimous approval on anything. Some will love it, some will not love it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, warnings aside, somebody will buy one of those units and then complain about it.
Agree.
I guarantee you it will happen
Or-
after being on an HOA board as long as I've
Or
been.
they'll come in and want to change it and put
Yeah,
funny colors on it.
Right.
yeah.
Are you going to have,
But that's, you can't control that, so.
are you going to have an architectural review board?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. That'll be
One-
in the
one-
HOA documents.
one-
Originally, sorry.
One with some really ironclad
Yes,
stipulations in it?
yes, we'll have standards. So I'm coming, again, my background is I lived for 17 years. I'm now the current declarant of, and I'm on the board of the McIntosh and the Lake subdivision. And so I'm very used to, I think their documents are really well done. And so we're actually going to basically copy a lot of what they have to maintain the standards, which I think is really important. And then two, to have, you know, things like the architectural side where they're very limited in terms of what they can change. So we would never, it will be disallowed to like change the siding later to a vinyl siding. You'll have to have cementitious siding, wood, fiber, wood, stone, brick, et cetera. Things like that, 30-year architectural shingles. So that, because the other issue that I see, particularly in townhomes, is if you don't have solid maintenance going forward, then they degrade over time, and then the neighborhood degrades over time, and you don't want that in the city.
So even though we require bonds for performance bonds and things, what is your plan for putting the amenities in? Because, you know, it's like, yeah, you have a bond, but we don't want to, yeah, we require people to have a bond, but we don't really want to perform. We don't want to have to do it.
Right.
We want you to do it. So, we understand that maybe the amenities can't be built first, but how much of your development will be built and then the amenities would start?
So that's a great question. So in this case,
We don't want it to be the last thing on the list.
right, so I think this will please you. In this case, we're actually going to develop the entire infrastructure in one phase. We're not going to phase this at all because it just doesn't phase well because of the grading. And all of the amenities will be installed prior to a certificate of occupancy being done for the first townhome building. So the first resident who moves in will have every amenity available day one. What that also requires, which not many people would think of, but we know this because it happens, and again, it's part of our plan, part of our budget, the HOA will be underfunded initially
Right.
to take care of these amenities. So we as developer through the CCNRs will have the responsibility and obligation to properly maintain those till such time as the HOA has enough financial ability to pay for those amenities for their upkeep. So we'll basically put a cash infusion up front into the HOA. We'll have I'm trying to think of the right word, but we'll have a study done by an accounting firm that tells us what the proper amount of funds to put into the HOA are, and then we'll just meet that requirement based on what the accounting company says. So it won't be our opinion, which you might think some developers would then be happy to put a lower amount in. We're just going to put in the amount that the accounting firm that's a third party requires or suggests that we put in, and that's what we'll do.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, any questions from the audience?
May I ask that the city council open the public hearing?
Oh, I thought it was.
Madam Mayor, make a
Sorry.
motion, we open the public hearing.
I second it.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye. Kate,
Madam Mayor, I'm just trying to,
you could step up to the mic.
just for clarification, I heard the developer and his spokesman talk about the amenities and their disagreement with the planning board on that and wanting more flexibility. That they agreed with the one on the 2 buildings with 10 units. What I haven't heard yet was the planning board recommendation for a berm, a 3-foot berm with 8-foot plantings on the front side. Wondering what the position is there.
I think they did speak to that, but.
So, thank you, Ms. Bonnie, for that question. We took the position that we respectfully disagreed with them at that meeting. And one of the reasons why, and it was a split thing, we're not opposed to a 3-foot berm if that's something that's wanted. What I think you can't quite tell on this picture, though, is that the topography of this goes down. So we're not positive that's going to be a big thing, but we do think and feel strongly that requiring 8-foot or larger landscape is actually a mistake in the beginning because of the potential for them not to make it. And we've seen that before in various subdivisions. We plan to have a pretty robust system for fertilizing. So if we're going to put, the lower story and the higher story ground cover in, tree cover in, and if you take care of fertilizing them properly, which a lot of people don't do, they'll grow fairly quickly. And then they'll grow stronger because they're smaller and the roots go deeper from the initial planting versus an 8-foot that generally won't. But again, if the council, so deems that, we'll do it. We'll do the berm and or the plantings.
And that's on the front part, is that right?
On the road part, yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
What was their reasoning?
I'm not sure.
I don't,
But it does go down.
yeah, but I don't
first
think it,
come in,
they,
so
no
that's-
one has more, no one has more to lose than the developer on aesthetics. I
Right.
mean, I'm not trying to, but honestly, like, we had people that were wanting for Intersect project to put, was like a 10-foot berm or something. I said, that is gonna look, I don't think you can visualize how bad that's gonna look. And, the developer, because he wanted the project, was willing to do that. And I thought, you guys need to do some renderings or something, because I don't think, sometimes people will ask for things and they don't realize how that's gonna actually turn out based on the topography of the land. And, if it's so far off the road, I could see somebody arguing if they're right beside something, having some sort of berm or something, because but if he's willing to keep the mature plantings as a buffer around where it's gonna affect Miss Willis or anybody, any of the other neighbors, what are people driving down the road? I'm not getting that.
Backside of the townhouses, that was the discussion. That it would be both distracting and basically unattractive.
So when you're driving by, you'll see the backside of the townhouses, and that's going to be true for probably 3 years. But we think by the end of that 3rd year, going into the 4th year, with what we'll do, which is exactly what McIntosh on the Lake did, because I lived there from 2006 on, so I was one of the first residents there. And then when they put their townhome section in, they did the right thing, and those things, now they're over 30 feet. You can't even see the townhomes. But there's a way to make them grow a lot faster and then healthier if you do the twice a year fertilizing to them individually. But again, we're willing to do that. That's not a huge deal to us because we're already over improving on the landscape plan from the UDO plan. But we think what we're doing is right, but again, we're willing
mean,
to listen to the council.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't have any doubts that you want it to look aesthetically pleasing. It's literally like, kind of like how you're going into the
Right.
development. So,
Right.
it only makes sense to make it look nice.
Right.
Anybody, here from the audience that would like to come and speak on this project?
I think I asked this in the planning board, but I.
Could you
I
state your
am
name, please,
Angela
ma'am?
Willis,
Okay, thank you.
and I live directly, beside of the project.
What's your address
1408 North Jim Minor
for the?
Road.
Thank you.
So I'd like to know how much space is gonna be between either the back of the building or the yard of the project and my property line. Like how much,
So your property line is through the middle of the street, actually. So I think that would be a different answer than probably what you're really asking, which is the edge of the right of way. And so I think the back of the building would be.
Can you come up
could you
to
come
the,
up-
Sorry.
because our meetings are recorded, and so there's people listening online, and
sorry.
it's really difficult for them to hear if you're not talking in the mic.
So yeah, your property line goes through the center of the road, but the edge of the right of way is really probably what you're asking for. And the edge of the right of way is 60 feet. It's going to be approximately 60 feet from the back of the building. We had that 50-foot number, which was from the back of the pad to the edge of the property line. So we're gonna have 60 feet to here, the edge of the property line here. Then it's gonna be 35 feet to the edge of our right of way line. Then it's gonna be 60 feet to the edge of your right of way line. So all of that together is, what is that, 95?
so more of what, I mean, maybe you are answering my question. I don't know. This is a foreign language to me, looking at these kind of things. What I'm asking is, to the left where you all have agreed to do the two-story
okay.
buildings, I want to know how much space am I gonna have between my home and your building or the backyard of your building?
So I can't tell
You know what I'm-
yeah, I can't tell exactly. I think your home's over here, right? Towards the back of the building, back of the lot. So if your home's to the back of the lot, then it would probably be lot 10 that would be the closest. I can't tell you exactly what this would be without measuring it on my computer, but I think that it's at least 60 feet from the property line of lot 10 to the property line of the development. And then another 60 feet from that to our actual building. So that's 120 feet as an estimate to your property line. And then however, from that property line to your building, which it's going to be over 100 feet, I can tell you that much, 152. So what do I have? That's 270-ish as an estimate.
Okay. So the
It's
extra,
actually not right because it'd be way up here.
Yeah.
So it's actually going to be longer than that. But let's call that as the minimum, but it's going to be higher than that.
so in the planning board meeting, when you all were discussing putting I don't even know the proper term of the raised land that would kind of give the privacy and then the landscaping
Yeah.
as well, and what you all are saying, you don't want that because it would not be aesthetic. Going down my side on the left, couldn't that actually give me more privacy
I
to
think
have
I
that?
think I can speak for Sean when I say this, but we can do a 3
And
foot.
you would do that?
for you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I guess just to sum it, we would happily do it on the west property line. Say up to, because
So
we can't do it on the entire property line
On the
because we have,
entire left side, you
we-
can't.
no, because there's the floodway and then right away. So I don't know how we would want to define that.
So we'd be happy to put a berm in. It has to be on your side.
No, the berm can be on our side.
Again?
Yeah.
Okay. We'd be happy to put the
Well-
berm in.
Actually, so, sorry, I say that, and it can be, however, that does go against keeping the existing trees,
Right.
because obviously we would need
Right.
to
And
destroy
so
the trees.
I
to
think the
burn.
berm needs to be on your side, so, but at our cost. and we would put it from right there where the floodplain is down here. So if you give me a second, I'll give you that new measurement.
So that would be a good place to put it, just between that and the existing, no, because it has to be turned to the existing trees here. Because if we go inside the existing trees, we're gonna destroy the tree.
Trees.
I
That is
think
this
so
is-
much
yeah.
cover.
Can be a lot of-
Exactly.
There's a lot of
Work
cuts
here.
here.
So I think it
Differences
can
out
be
somewhere.
5, it's
So, I mean,
about 500 linear feet,
Yeah.
as long as we don't have to take any trees down. We
Yeah.
put it on your side.
could it
which is
be
fine.
something where we
So I think that's on
have
our
it
side.
legally for this first stretch, but then if we can do it, we do it for the second stretch? I don't know if
I'm
that's,
not a lawyer.
yeah, I guess, because we're trying to do right, but I don't want
What
to
do you
pin us to
want?
something we
What do
can't
you,
do.
we want to make you happy, and we know we're disturbing your peace, I'm
Yeah.
gonna say.
Just,
And I think from council's perspective, I'm not positive of this, but I think we would need to work out a private agreement on that, which we're happy to oblige ourselves to this evening, but I don't think we can quite do it. And, I think we'd have to do it with a lawyer at our cost. And we'd be happy to reimburse you for a lawyer to look at it from your side as well. Because again, we're not trying to impose, we're
Right.
imposing on you. We don't want to
Right,
impose extra
right.
costs. But I think the fair thing to do is to say we'd be willing to do a berm as long as it's outside of the floodplain, all the way on the property line to Jim Minor Road, other than any setback, like right at the road that's
Mhm.
DOT's, and put the extra landscaping in there to buffer you.
okay. And we talked about a fence and/or a fence.
Right, either way.
Okay.
The fence
Um,
would be easier.
Yeah, fence is easier for us,
I know,
but,
I just don't know how much privacy that's
Right.
gonna really give
We
me
can-
with that.
so we can even bring a sample over, literally put it in and let you look at it
Yeah.
just visually. I think you're gonna be better off with the landscaping, because they're gonna grow to 30 feet. If we do like green giant arborvitae,
Mhm.
which are more tolerant than Leland cypress to snow and ice, they're gonna be 30+ feet. So you won't see these.
So
And-
we could do the normal buffer, the buffer that we could do the buffer that we proposed, as well. So they have a plan for a buffer with a fence in it already. So we could just commit to the fence buffer if that would be something that you would be okay with too.
So like, does all of this have to be decided tonight, or are
No.
y'all?
No.
I guess I don't
No.
know in terms of legality, because we obviously want to be right, but we also don't want the council to think we're gonna, abandon you or
Abandon,
something.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
And
Well,
then
as was
what also
mentioned-
About they're gonna do a turning lane, and I don't know if that's on you or DOT, but we talked about that they would replace mailbox and landscaping out because that turning lane is gonna start right there in front of my.
yeah, it's on
driveway,
DOT
everything.
to approve, but us to actually do.
Okay, okay, so,
Yeah.
Do you know about that, Aaron? Is that
Yes.
anything that we would need to require?
Well, as Scott was saying, the difficulty is gonna be anything that's gonna happen on private property outside of the project area. That's gonna be outside of your space. I think where he was saying, where possible with the berm and all this other stuff that happens on our side, you can have that in the condition, but anything beyond is gonna have to be worked out.
Is
Mark
it
down.
something that everyone, sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say, would it be
Yeah.
comfortable if it would be something where we would say enhanced buffering on the west side between the floodplain and Jim Minor Road and leave it a little vague for us to figure out internally or externally, I guess?
The other thing I want to mention for the mailbox, so on, I believe, our TRC plan, which DOT participates in, we will be required to replace any mailboxes or structures that we take out to widen the road at our cost. So we'll replace what you have with exactly what you have and or better in terms of it being newer.
and the sewage, the sewer line that's gonna come in, and you were saying you had to clear for that?
Yeah,
Is
so-
that gonna be in the corner of me, right over here?
It'll be right here. So if you want to look here,
Yeah,
just
the-
eyeballing it, maybe there-ish.
So it's already open.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it would still remain open because we're gonna add that buffer along this area, but that one little
It's
hole
gonna be open.
will be just a slight, was it 30 feet wide, just a slight gap, yeah.
Okay,
But we can still buffer you on your side 100%. That's why,
That's actually true, yeah. we
that's
could do
why
that.
you want to put it on your side, not our side. Because we have to cut.
okay, thank you. So
You
we
know-
can just kinda.
Do you know what the reason was that the one person voted against it on planning board? Did they state a reason?
But I'm gonna.
It was,
try.
Mr.
Well, that's what I-
You're gonna take care of.
Mr. Stockard?
Again,
Yeah.
it's no secret that I don't want this, obviously.
I believe that was in his disagreement was they had not had any, I guess they didn't get something from the Corps of Engineer, given they've got the floodplain behind the property.
Yeah, and generally, all that's handled through the TRC process. I mean, they have to have all that straightened out before they can get approval to get to the construction review and all that, which follows this. So we were gonna have to have that handled anyway before they could even get any further. But I didn't hear him state a reason other than now. It was just the vote was made and that's how it was.
Our recollection is that he didn't like that we were using part of the floodplain for our open space, which is allowed in the UDO, but we also went way above that with the 30% number.
Can I get a clarification on, in the initial request, you said that you wanted to lower the, width from
25 to 20,
25 to 20,
between
but
the buildings.
you said you told me earlier it's 25.
No, so, if that's, I think we were
Between the
talking about a number in the back,
Okay.
when the 25 got.
Oh, you
we're still looking
mean
to do
side,
20.
side to side, not
Yeah.
front to back? Okay,
Yes,
okay. So you still need that from 25 to 20?
that would be.
In between the buildings, yeah.
So can I make sure that I have everything here? Enhanced buffering on the west side, if any mailbox receptacles that are currently existing there need to be replaced, that they will be replaced. That the width between the buildings would go from 25 feet to 20 feet. Other than that one condition, all aspects of the RMF zoning would be met. That, there would be, how would I describe the buffering on the front, Aaron,
Well,
based on what they're promising at this meeting?
well, it's site plan specific, so the approval of the conditional zoning with the site plan showing it it would take care of that.
Okay. And that the units would not be more than, on lots 1 through 10, the units would not be more than 2 stories. And that on all the units, the number of bedrooms would not exceed 3 bedrooms. That the, developer would install, benches at their discretion and at their location, dog waste receptacles, 2 pickleball courts, a dog park, a grill area.
Can I jump in real quick?
Sure.
So that list was options, not what we're committing to. And what we're committing to is the 0.24 acres of active recreation space, which those are meeting.
I thought he said that he
Yeah.
wanted to commit to 3 of them.
Right, so I think what we were saying is we want to commit as the developer to install the 2 pickleball courts with lighting, fencing, the dog park with fencing, as well as the animal waste receptacle inside, plus we'll have a number of them through the community, and the gazebo. We also would like to leave the other list up there, the child play area, and open play lawn, as options, but we're going to do those first 3 things. And then the other open area that you see, which is really part of the bioretention, we can't call an open area because it's bioretention, but it really will be a useful space. Oh, sorry, it is technically open area, not rec. I was thinking rec area.
Sneak in.
I'll be part of it.
that,
Madam
yes,
Just to answer your earlier question, Mr. Stockard suggested after the meeting that his concern was, as was described, the not enough open space by counting that water feature reservoir at the back as open space. He felt there was not enough open space, and he was not happy with leaving a 50-foot height requirement. Those are the two things he said.
with a 50-foot height requirement, was that, so he didn't want a 3-story, he wanted 2-story? Is that what you're saying?
So I think that so the 50-foot was, the way that the height is determined is, a mean of the arch of the building. So I just rounded up, and we were talking about it, and if you guys wanted to make it 38 feet, just so that it's officially 3 stories and there's no, ifs, ands, or buts about it, we'd be happy to do that instead of the 50, but that was just rounding up essentially.
Maybe that would make Mr. Stockard happier.
Probably.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
I second.
Anyone else that wanted to speak? Good. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I was taking notes here, so, the motion would be to approve or deny the rezoning of 24.18 acres located on Jim Minor Road, unzoned to conditional residential, to construct a maximum of 143 townhomes, and that it would be consistent with policies 3.3.2, 5.2.1, and strategies 1.1.2, and 4.3.2 of the Graham's 2035 Comprehensive Plan and City of Graham Development Ordinance with the following conditions. And do please interrupt me if I don't list something, because it's a lot of them. But with the conditions that we would have enhanced buffering on the west side, replace any existing mailboxes that are to be disturbed due to the development, that we would require that the buffer surrounding the property leave as many mature trees as possible in that area to both not disturb the erosion, but also to protect the buffer, the natural buffer that exists as of today. That there would be pickleball and 2 pickleball courts installed with fencing and lighting, a dog park installed with fencing, a gazebo, and the optional amenities would be Frisbee golf.
No, optional is up to the homeowners once they.
Right, but he said you wanted to leave it on there?
I mean, is it possible, I'm not sure, but is it possible just to say what's listed in the conditions list? Because
Sure.
we provided, extent like 2-3 pages of conditions, in our words, then list those.
The amenities, you mean, that you have listed in that little chart? Okay, and that you would get those 3, and that the other ones listed in the chart would be optional and left up to the homeowners or the builder's discretion going forward. That there would be no more than 3 bedrooms, regardless of how many stories they're, whether they're 3 stories or 2-story, that, it not be, that none of the units exceed 38 feet high. And that all the amenities would be in place and, built out prior to the first certificate of occupancy. And that,
Cover the 2-story buildings, 1 through 10. 2 stories, 1 through 10.
oh, yeah, that's right. So, and that lots 1 through 10 would not be more than 2 stories tall. And that, I did have that here.
And the enhanced
lot of
buffer
writing.
behind it.
And then, that, do we want to say something about that buffer?
Yeah, the enhanced buffer, I think is what they called
Enhanced
it, right?
buffer on the, what's that, the road side,
What's the west? It's that, you did that one in the front, but I'm talking about the one on, behind 1 through 10 on the west. They were talking about doing an enhanced buffer kind of to be determined by the developer and
The,
Yeah, that
working
was
with the homeowner on that.
that was the first condition, was the enhanced buffer on the west side.
Yeah,
okay,
I don't think you
So-
said the 25 to 20.
yeah. The
Yeah.
space between the buildings.
yeah, that we would allow a reduction, let me get, I'm sorry, I forgot my computer tonight. It was usually in here and I got here and it wasn't. So that, so I'm having to do this off my phone, but the condition to, reduce the width, between the buildings from 25 to 20 feet would be granted, but outside of that condition, all aspects of the RMF zoning district would be met. And that there would be evergreen plantings along the left side of the property until it meets the sewer easement, as well as other planting requirements.
Sorry, so when you're talking about meeting all of the other MF requirements, I don't know all of them off the top of my head. And what I'm concerned of, it's all good. So even the 100-foot depth or 90-foot depth of lots and all that stuff is okay? Side setbacks, all good? Okay, apparently we're good.
Okay. And, the buffer at the road, I liked what you said, sir, Sean. How do we? We want it to be, opaque. We understand that initially it can't be there, but by year 4, we want the plantings to be an opaque buffer along the Jim Minor Road area, as shown in the drawings and the proposed, plans. Did I get everything? I think I got
I
everything.
think you did.
Get
Madam
everything.
Mayor, I second your motion.
Okay,
Did you motion to approve it? You said approve or deny.
No.
no, somebody needs, I just
Right.
listed it out. Do I
Madam
have a
Mayor, I
motion for
make,
that?
I make a motion, we approve
Okay,
the rezoning of 24.18 acres located on Jim Minor Road from unzoned to CR conditional residential to construction, a maximum of 143 townhomes, and that it would be consistent with policies 3.3.2, 5.2.1, and strategies 1.1.2 and 4.3.2 of Graham's 2035 Comprehensive Plan and the City of Graham Development Ordinance, keeping all the restrictions that you
listed out.
stated.
Do I hear
I
a
second the
second?
motion.
Okay,
Second.
any discussion? Everybody good? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I just want to say that I appreciate personally the effort that you made to reach out to the neighbors to make them satisfied. Sometimes developers come in here and they make a lot of promises. They end up not even being the developer or the builder that's building it. And it gets a lot lost in the equation. We put our name on the line when we agree to have developers come in here and develop things. We appreciate that you're a local builder. You have to see these people in church and in the grocery store. And so we just ask developers do what they say they're going to do and keep promises. And so I appreciate you really. I can tell that you really made a great effort to try to make modifications to your plans to come in here with something that is a much better project than maybe what was initially drawn out. I absolutely love the bioretention part of it. I think it's aesthetically going to make that project so attractive. I love the pickleball courts and just very good work. I appreciate you guys coming in here prepared and ready to go, and good luck to you, and we look forward to seeing what it's going to turn out. Thank you. And we'll hear about it from Ms. Willis over here, so make sure she's happy. Your neighbor's happy, but good neighbors, you know, can make a neighborhood wonderful, so appreciate that. On the city council, considering an annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the city of Graham for a tract land totaling 24.18 acres located off Jim Minor Road. I open the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on this proposed annexation for this project? Hearing none, like to close the public hearing and need a motion
I
and a
make a motion
second
we
to
close.
approve or deny the annexation ordinance.
I make a motion that we approve the annexation. No.
I did. I closed it.
She opened it and closed it.
I opened it and closed it. Yeah, I said, okay, okay. Can I close the public hearing?
I
right
make a
here
motion.
second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And now we need a motion to approve
Mayor.
the annexation ordinance.
Make a motion to approve the annexation ordinance.
Second,
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Appreciate that. Motion carries. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for keeping me straight. Happy birthday to you.
She's missing her birthday dinner, you know. She's got reservations.
Huh?
I'm just saying, she's missed her reservation.
I'm sorry about that. Let's see, city council will consider a special use permit for unified business development for a property located at 1205 East Hardin Street for the use of a multi-tenant building. And recognize, Aaron Holland.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't see Chad Huffines. He was the engineer on this project. He did have another commitment in Elon. I think their meetings are the same night and roughly the same time as ours. He did ask if we could move it to the end of the public hearing. I know we still have the budget to run through.
Sure.
So if council would oblige, I know he would greatly appreciate it.
You could text him and see if he's coming or if he wants us to put it out till
Yeah.
July.
Let's get ready to do that, so.
Okay. Public hearing's been considered to scheduled to consider the adoption of the fiscal 2025, 2026 budget ordinance, pay plan, and the rate and fee schedule. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Recognize City Manager Megan Garner in this regard.
Good evening, City Council. Tonight is your fiscal year 2025, 2026 budget hearing, budget public hearing. I will run through sort of how we got to where we are, if you'll allow me before you open or declare the public hearing to be open. So our budget process began this year in December. We had a City Council planning session. January, we opened the department heads up to go ahead and start entering their budgets. March, we had the part 2 of the city council planning session. And since March to the time that you received your budget in May, there were multiple departmental meetings. The intent behind the two-part city council budget work sessions that we had, one in December and one in March, was to get directive from city council on what you wanted your budget to look like for the upcoming fiscal year. That was the intent behind it. Those meetings were very beneficial for me personally. We communicated those to staff, your priorities from December and for March. We communicated those to staff at both junctures so they could keep that as their overarching goal when they were submitting their requests. As you'll recall, City Council had strategic priorities. I think that's okay. So these were the priorities we were able to accomplish this current fiscal year: the digital signage at City Hall and addressing the Sesquicentennial Park repair. Jumping on to fiscal year 26, which is our upcoming fiscal year, these are the strategic priorities that City Council identified that we were working to accomplish through the budget proposal for the upcoming fiscal year. Restructure sanitation. We do that routinely. As you'll recall from the budget meetings we've had to date, there is a proposed sanitation collector position that was added in there. Implement Edmunds software we talked about tonight, and the personnel policy. Payroll went live June of this year, and the personnel policy was updated and even just amended tonight. High-quality infrastructure. There was 1.3 million proposed in the upcoming fiscal year to continue with the neighborhood waterline enhancement project and complete the comprehensive plan. We do hope to come back to City Council with that in the summer of 2025. Continue on with the priorities for fiscal year 26. Hire a city engineer. That is an action item for City Council to consider later tonight. And update the Unified Development Ordinance that we will bring back to City Council at a future meeting. Moving on to the general fund, just sort of some highlights on the general fund as a whole. I know tonight is sort of the budget and audit night. You kind of get a mix of two different fiscal years. 1 penny on the tax rate is estimated to generate around $270,000. Your general fund budget is balanced at $22,750,000. That is with a tax rate of $30.99. Street resurfacing, we talk a lot about streets. The minimum or the preferred width of those streets is proposed to increase for the 12th consecutive year. And our expenditures for public safety, which include police and fire, exceed our ad valorem tax levy by almost $1.5 million. Deferred maintenance and capital items in the proposed budget equate to over $1.5 million. We do have a mandatory employer retirement contribution increase. I think this is year 4 or 5 where the state continues to step up those rates. Probably won't end anytime soon. Our health insurance increased by 4%. Since joining NCHIP, which is the North Carolina Health Insurance Pool, we are capped at a 5% maximum increase year over year. We started the budget process with a 5% increase, made some modifications to our plan, so we were able to get that down to 4%. There are new full-time positions funded, the public relations specialist, which is funded entirely through occupancy tax dollars, sanitation collector, which is an existing title but a new position, building maintenance technician. This is one person, although there are 3 titles added in the pay plan to allow for a career ladder, and then the addition of 1 entry-level firefighter position per shift. These are not intended to be career ladders. The next chart just shows our general fund departments and where the majority of our dollars go. Obviously, the biggest department in terms of dollars and employees is our police department, followed by the fire department, and then streets and highways round out the third. Moving on to the water and sewer fund, it is balanced at $13,093,000. There is a proposed rate increase of 4%, similar to everything else we've done with the budget process. When we began, Hazen and Sawyer, our engineers, were proposing we go with a 9% increase. We're able to make modifications to the budget through the process, and we're able to bring that down to 4% rate increase for the proposed budget. If you use 1,000 gallons per month, that's at 92 cents. Your bill would go up. If you're a 5,000 gallon user, which is really sort of the industry standard, it's $3.39 increase per month. There are no new positions or reclassifications funded in your water and sewer fund, which is Fund 31. The next chart just shows the different departments within Fund 31 and where that money goes. Summary of changes from the budget proposal in May to your budget work session that was also held in May. There were changes to fee schedules on page 22. The current wording was meter reread with no city error. It was a $10 fee for a reread if the city didn't have an error in that. We heard city council's recommendation, so we changed the wording to meter reread with no city error or leak detected. So what we don't want to do is penalize a customer who has a leak on their side. We've gone back out and reread it. They had no way of knowing there was a leak, and now they've gotten a $10 fee on top of a high water bill, a plumber, or someone coming out there. And then also on, in the fee schedule on page 23, all 3/4 inch meter costs were proposed at $475, and they increased to $525, and that is to break even on the cost of the meter for the upcoming fiscal year. Be happy to answer any specific questions you have about the budget. Otherwise, we can open the public hearing and go from there.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Need a motion to open the public hearing in a second.
I'll make a motion, we open.
Or a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, would anyone like to speak on the proposed budget tonight? It says special use permit. Proposed budget, right? That's okay. I thought I was reading in the wrong place.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Um, Megan, can you talk a little bit about, well, you estimated the sales tax correctly.
That is correct,
Um,
but I think so.
We don't have any money left over that's going into fund balance, where the proposed budget is using part of the fund balance that we have to balance the budget.
That is correct.
The majority of the increases are coming from just growth that we kind of inherited. Sanitation trucks, sanitation worker. Can you talk a little bit about the initial requests that you had for the budgets and how those items were slashed and changed and cut down to what we have before us today?
Yeah, absolutely. So from the first budget work session, the planning session City Council had in December, like I said, we communicated those priorities to departments. We opened the budget process in January. Departments enter their budgets directly into our financial software. We go through individual meetings, at least 2 rounds with every department to review their requests. We probably cut more than, or right around $2 million from the amount that was requested to the amount that was included in the proposed budget that was given to you last month. Departments aren't allowed to use any personnel-related expenses to keep their department in the black, as far as overspending any lines. We personally hold them to the line item detail, even though for audit purposes, as long as the department as a whole is not overspent, we go one level deeper than that and hold them to the line item detail. So if you have one that's over, you need to make cuts in something else to transfer that. So after we went through the individual budget reviews, like I said, there were at least 2 with every department. Some of them had more, some of them had quite a few more than 2. And we compare those to what we believe the revenues are going to be for the upcoming year, usually make additional cuts communicate that to departments so they know where we are in the budget process, knowing that everything is fluid. And once it moves through the process, there are always changes that are subject to make. I will tell you that department heads were very cognizant of city council priorities. And it was, like I said, for me personally, and even for departments, it was really helpful to understand exactly where your priorities were so we could put our focus on that and deliver a budget to you that we thought mirrored your priorities and your key strategic actions as closely as possible.
And one of those things, and I know it's not in the general fund, but it's the water and sewer fund, something that I think that, well, I'm proud that we're taking it's hard. It's hard to go up on rates. It's hard to go up on water and sewer rates, but, everybody on this council is paying the same thing. I mean, we see the issues and we see the problems, and the entire north side of City of Graham needs to be updated. The lines are 70+ years old. We've done the largest capital improvement project that the city's ever had with the $86 million upgrade to the wastewater treatment plant. We went out and on our own got a $10 million grant to do the water line replacement for the water treatment plant. We got another $3-point-something million for utility improvements, but this neighborhood enhancement project, where we basically pick a neighborhood and we replace those water lines, and it's trying to eat an elephant, just a bite at a time. But I think it's necessary, and I think our, when we talk to Burke and, the people that are out there, the street department, the utility director, about the amount of money that we're spending going out there and putting Band-Aids on this stuff every single year, in it, every week, there's something. I think in the long run, it's gonna be a lot cheaper to the citizens for us to be doing these projects and just trying to take neighborhood by neighborhood and replacing those things. So regardless of what that costs, I feel like we need to do it and we have to do it. And I appreciate you making that a priority. I know we have a lot of debt service with the loan, but we did get the loan at basically 0% interest. And we did apply for every grant that was out there. There's just maximums on grants, and I think we got the maximum. So yeah, I wish we could, I wish there wasn't a proposed tax increase, of 2 cents, but I think it, has to be said that, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No.
2 cent.
Two.
It's a 2 cent tax proposal by the city manager to balance the budget. And that's even with taking money from the savings to try to keep taxes low. But I think it is important, and it wouldn't be fair to say that 2 years ago, we lowered taxes, the tax rate. Even though it's revenue neutral, everybody else raised their tax rate. And even if they're not raising their tax rate this year, they're still well above what we are, because we did go revenue neutral 2 years ago, back down to, from 47 cent to 28 cent. The largest tax decrease that I've ever known Graham to ever have. I don't think there's ever been a time. But we don't, it's frustrating because we don't control what stuff is valued at. The county does that, and then we just try to, everything we do is reactionary. We did look into some things that came up at the last meeting, Tom, that you brought up. We did look into the library issue. That doesn't seem to be an issue, and hopefully that won't change going forward. So that I think will still be funded. We looked into the issue regarding the,
School resource
school
officers
resource officers, and
That's
that's
funded.
funded by the state. Um,
for the municipal SROs.
Yep. I feel like we've done a lot of work to try to reduce costs, both with insurance, changing insurance companies. Not this year, but previously, to have more control over, what the premiums will be, getting something in writing saying that it can't increase more than the 5% every year, so that we don't get some sort of shocking number like we were getting, with the previous, insurance company.
Yeah,
We
the
got
city
a
was
better
experiencing
policy, yeah,
double-digit premium increases each year.
every single year. And it was very difficult to budget for that. And then this year, by simply removing one thing, not allowing, coverage on one particular medication, it dropped our insurance by
From 5% to 4%.
4%.
Mhm.
I mean, I know you don't always hear about all the things that we're doing to try to keep the tax rate low or to try to keep expenses low quite a bit. And we do take your comments. You just happen to be the only one here making comments, but we do take comments from the public and from, but you're a Graham resident as well, so, and we do take that to heart, and we do try to come up with the, I mean, everyone here pays taxes. Everyone here doesn't want, tax increases. But we also want trash to be delivered timely. We don't want to wait 2 or 3 days for trash to be picked up because we don't have enough, staff. We have a 25-year-old vehicle that absolutely needs to be replaced, and unfortunately, that one vehicle is 1 cent of the tax rate.
Yeah, and I will point out the transmission for the existing knuckle boom truck this week has gone out. So we're going to the even older unit to try to continue service. And even if this budget as proposed is approved, a new one is 6 to 8 months out. So we're not replacing new with new. We're really, truly, have been limping things along, and
Yeah.
timing was unfortunate.
But if you have any suggestions as to how we can, cut anything else, but she has cut 2 million from the budget from what was initially proposed. And we had 2 budget meetings to discuss, priorities and, what things that we could fund and what things that we couldn't fund. And was there any options to get grants? We, said, is it worth us we went through the league to try to hire a grant writer, and then they defunded that project, and the state didn't fund it anymore. But we're out here every day trying to find money, to bring in order to fund the budget and the needs of the city. So, is there any other comments from floor? Any comments from the council?
I'll make a motion if you want.
And I really don't want to raise property taxes. I understand why it's being proposed.
Well, I mean, I don't
I've made suggestions.
like it either, but I mean, it's
What are we gonna cut?
necessary. We
I mean,
can't cut anything else, so,
Garbage every other week?
mean,
I mean,
yeah.
I know we've,
I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the budget ordinance, pay plan, and fee schedule for fiscal year 2025 to 2026.
I second your motion.
Was there any other options, Megan, that you gave?
No, ma'am.
She's like, we've got to have it. She's like, I'm already taken from the fund balance. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. I understand it. I just don't like it.
None of us like it, but
I know.
I gotta pay it
understand.
too.
I
I don't
understand.
like it, but
Did you hear back from Chad?
He's still caught up over there in Elon, so he asked that it be tabled if council
Okay.
would allow.
All right, so let's go back to item number 6, special use permit for 1205 East Hardin Street. Due to the petitioner not being available in another public hearing, the petitioner requests for it to be tabled until the July 8th, is that right, the 8th?
the 8th, yeah.
2025 meeting. Do I hear a second? I make that
Second.
motion. Do I hear a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Back to item number 8, municipal engineering services. City council will consider approving the retention of Ally Williams, Carmen and King for municipal engineering services. And Aaron's Assistant City Manager, Aaron Powell.
All right, thank you, Mayor. After several conversations between the city council and staff, city council directed staff to move forward with an RFQ for municipal engineering services. The RFQ was posted and circulated on April 11, 2025, with a submission deadline of April 25th, 2025. The city did receive 3 submittals from Urban Design Partners, Bowman, and Allen Williams, Carmen and King. Meetings were scheduled with the prospective firms during the following weeks to discuss the engineering services and expectations moving forward. After the meeting with Bowman, they did request to withdraw from consideration following internal discussions. There were issues with them being able to cover all the services that the city would require, so they didn't want to move forward and be in a position where if they were selected, they wouldn't be able to handle what was offered to the city currently. Based on staff review of the remaining 2 firms, staff did recommend retaining the services of Allen Williams, Carmen and King. There we go.
Now, if we take on Alec, Carmen and King, can we get us another
General engineer.
liaison person?
I mean, that's certainly council's pleasure if that's part of the approval that.
Well, I guess one of the concerns is the past year, none of the grants submitted by Ally Williams was successful. Was there one?
Yeah, Lennon Copper, I think that was $500,000, or 400,000, one of them, because both of them and Hazen both went after utility related grants. There was a number of grants that we went forward with to try to get with the CDBG that was unsuccessful. That Ally Williams had worked on. But that might have been 2 or 3 years ago. I wasn't sure that was last year, but I mean, certainly can work with them if council wants to move forward with them for a new liaison. For disclosure, Josh and I did meet with the mayor to discuss what options could be looked at for better communication. I think that was one of the big issues that we were hearing from developers and other engineers that we felt could be improved with them. I think we even worked out monthly meetings with a council liaison to go over current projects so that everyone is abreast of what's going on in that development community, so that council as a whole could also be up to speed on that as well. So, and I think we're also looking at doing meetings prior, pre-development meetings prior to the project actually going to TRC, which I think is big. It's a time-consuming effort on staff side, because you have that.
You get a lot better project.
But you would get a much better project, and
And some of this stuff that can't be built that gets people all riled up. And the project can't even be built anyways, and it gets everybody upset. Those projects shouldn't even be coming to planning board or to council. I took what you said, you had some concerns about the billings.
Yeah, I was
Needed to
gonna
be
say,
more
I do not like the way they bill at all.
that was
It-
I'll
it's
talk
so,
about that.
yep, that was
it's
another item.
so vague. You can't tell who did what, when, what day. I would like to see some changes to that we can really pin down, okay, you did this on what day?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I'm sorry, but it's very unprofessional to bill the way that they do
Mhm.
with like zero detail.
And that was another
Um,
item. Yeah,
And I have an issue with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A big issue, huge. Yeah, there's zero accountability. And, engineering services are very expensive. And we want to know what we're paying for on what day and how many hours did you work on what project?
Mhm.
And who
Well,
did it?
I will say that, we had 3 people that responded, right?
3.
And
We
one
had
person.
more, that,
Backed out though.
yeah, we had more interest,
Yeah.
but only 3 submitted.
Yeah, I think, he seemed to be very receptive to, making changes and, being much more, like, he's like, can I have an opportunity to fix whatever, that I guess he wasn't aware of. And I was very, direct and very, blunt about the things that the council, wanted to see changed going forward. And he was very receptive and open to all of that. I mean, wouldn't you say, Aaron?
I would say so.
And if that means, there needs to be any kind of changes that you guys want to see, I think that, he just is hoping for an opportunity to be able to make those changes to, he's saying that he feels like they can reduce the cost of the engineering fees substantially by having these meetings, and like not getting stuff on the back end, but actually like fixing things before they kind of go to engineering. The other thing he talked about was charging more for fees on the review, because what basically the developers have figured out and what they're doing is they're getting him, the firm that's paid by the city, to review all their plans and fix all the stuff that's wrong with them. So they do these very incomplete, poorly drawn plans, and then want the expertise and the hours of review that they do to basically fix what these developers are proposing. And, he wants the ability to be able to say, I'm not reviewing that. I'm not even going to look at that. There's so much stuff on here that's not, like, he gave an example of a developer sent in plans that had the utilities on one plan, and what did he say? He said, like, it wasn't all together. He didn't have a plan that had everything together. And he's like, I can't review, like, this isn't how, like, I shouldn't have to be explaining to people how it needs to be done. They should come here with professional plans that I can review and not be a big waste of, so he's much more, I think, being conscientious of what that is. And I said, well, I think the council would like to know how much we're spending on that so that we know how to set the fees so that, basically, one of the things that we talked about was some strategies were to kind of like what we do with the review where, you know, they were going out there 7, 8, 9, 10, as many as 12, 14 times to proof roll a street. I mean, shouldn't take more than 2 times to proof roll the street. And he's like, you know, that's just a waste of our time. So we implemented a fee that said that if you call us to come out and you're not ready, then you're going to get a fee for us to come do a reinspection. And you keep getting these fees until you actually get the road ready, and it's going to start costing the developer. He wants to do the same thing on plan reviews. He's recommended to the council to do that. He said because he feels like they're not even making an effort to really bring something that is really a finished project.
So the plans submitted by the
well.
developer, are they not approved by a professional engineer before they come before?
Well, it's an engineer that brings the plans in. It's a private engineer that's hired by whatever the development. Just take for example that subdivision tonight that came spoke before you guys. There was a firm that was hired that would draw up the plans and that's submitted to TRC in order to be reviewed and at some point approved to come before council for zoning approval, which is what happened tonight. So they had several meetings with TRC to get it to where it's buildable because the plans you saw tonight were not the plans that were originally drawn up. So it went through phases. Some take less time than others to get to the point where it comes before council. Some take a long time because the engineers may not correct the issues in a timely manner, or they're not changing anything and it just keeps being repeated comments until I guess they get the picture that it's not gonna get any approval until it gets approved. And I think that's where some of the issue lies, where you're having so many reviews. The review fee is a number, like 250, I forgot what it is. It's a low number, but it's not every single time going forward. It's a first time payment that doesn't carry over for other reviews. And I guess that's what Josh was getting at some point. We're gonna need to look at that because we don't want our engineers on taxpayers' dimes to pay for a plan to be done for someone that is being hired and paid for by the other side.
Well, I mean, he's abundantly aware of that we're looking for strategies to lower our engineering costs. And so, I mean, I'm open to the idea of giving him the opportunity to make some changes and improvements. I mean, I think he's heard us, and I think it would be, what I don't like is going to somebody and saying, hey, here's all these things. We've had, you know, developers give us concerns about things, you know, and then not give them the opportunity to fix it. I do think that people deserve the opportunity to fix those things. And I think they have a lot of knowledge in that firm, for sure. And I think Josh has I think he's a good engineer, and I think he has a lot of knowledge. There's certain things that we just want to see. And I think it's always good to look at whoever we're contracting with and say, hey, these are the things that we like. These are the things that we don't like. These are the things we want you to work on. So,
But I think I would like to see a climate that we develop that says, if you're a developer and you're submitting a plan for a major development, that plan should be defined to the point that a professional engineer could stamp it and says, hey, that's a complete plan. Covers all the facets that's required. So that when it comes to our planning board and our TRC to look at it, it should be
Ordinance compliant.
ordinance compliant right off the bat. So it's like, yep,
Should
yep,
be.
yep, yep.
Yep.
Versus, oh, they left this out, they left that out. It's like, wait a minute. If it's in our development ordinance, we want developers to know, if you submit a plan that satisfies all the requirements, it's going to get reviewed. And got an engineer who signed off on it, and everything's according to ordinance, and boom, it gets approved. But I think the developers have gotten in that, hey, Graham's gonna throw it back at us anyway, so leave stuff out, or they don't go to the extent of making sure their plan.
Well,
meets
I think it's, in my personal opinion, just knowing what I know about development, I think that they want to be as vague as they can be
But they can get away with.
to see
But see, I
what
think-
they're gonna, what do you think, Aaron?
I could tell you 17 years being in planning and around planning, I have yet to see a major development set of plans pass on the first submittal. And there are some engineers, Chad's one of them that I love, but even he has to take it back to work on, because there are just so many checkpoints that have to get hit because it's state regulations, it's DOT it's so many.
Erosion control.
It's a lot of areas that have to get satisfied before it gets to a point where if it has to come to the planning board and council for consideration, it takes a couple of runs through to make sure everything has been checked off. And then even after tonight, that subdivision still has to go back before TRC because the set of plans that you saw tonight, the set of plans that you saw tonight were for zoning approval. There's a whole new set of plans they're gonna have to draw up for construction approval, so they can actually go out and start building. And that's gonna be another run through TRC with a totally more in-depth set of plans that is more scrutinized because it's checking even more layers that doesn't have to be checked off to come for zoning approval. So it's involved, and I
But
certainly
it does
understand.
put a lot of pressure on our engineering department that they don't miss anything. You know, it's a little nerve wracking because it's one of those things you can't make a mistake, because if you make a mistake, it can be a big.
Well, not only if you make a mistake, if it gets built in a way that is below the level that the city wants, then it's hard for us at that point to rear it back in to get them to correct it. Because some things can be built where, you know what, that should have ran through here. Well, there's a house there now. I mean, we've had that happen years ago, where something is an easement that was cutting right, basically through where a house is now. So, well, you can't run it through there now. So we had to find a way to correct it. Took a lot of effort. It was corrected, but that's an example where one oversight could lead to a much bigger problem, which I think is what you're
Yeah.
getting at.
So does Josh have a suggestion of what, when he thinks the fee should be raised? Like, is there a magic number for him that would be like, if you have to come bring this to me more than 3 times, you're gonna pay more? Or,
If
I mean, does he have a,
yeah, I don't know that he necessarily has a magic number or kind of like a
Have to
trigger
look at
point.
how much time he's spending on reviewing plans, and then get back with us on, like, I mean, I'm not saying we need to make money off of it, but we need to recoup our money. I mean, it's
Right.
not,
Yeah.
you know, it's
For our
not fair to
services.
the
For the
citizens of Graham to be paying for somebody to be reviewing somebody else's plans. It's like Bobby says, you know, if everybody is certified as an engineer, then you should be bringing plans that are already correct or pretty correct.
close to it?
What,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
that,
things like Aaron said might get missed or occasionally, or mistakes that can be made, but they shouldn't have to
Things that
keep
they have to
coming back
consider.
over and over and over and over and over. There's a problem with that. I understand that, and I agree.
There have been similar instances in recent years where city council wanted us to report back mid-year with sort of where we were to date, so y'all could consider perhaps mid-year revised fees. So if you want us to do that, we can, if that's a desire of city council, we can plan for a December. If you think that would give us, that's 6 months-ish to kind of see and track where we are and then come back to you with numbers. If you want us to do it shorter or longer, we can certainly do that.
Have you seen a decrease in the number of re-inspections because of the?
On the public works side, those fees, since they have been increased, yes, we have seen a significant improvement. Some people are a little slower maybe to learn than others, but generally speaking, yes. And that's a similar example. We did a mid-year report back to city council with pictures of what they were seeing versus, what they're seeing now since the proposed fees went into effect. So if y'all are fine with December, we can plan to bring that before you. And then if you want to do revisions to the fee schedule, maybe we can make them effective in January with the new calendar year, if that's amenable to council.
I would like that.
I want to, we want to be business friendly. We want to welcome development here that's responsible development. But people that are taking advantage, like, we just can't have, we don't have the money to just be ignoring that. And so, I want to hear back from Josh as to, how much money we are spending on reviewing other people's plans, like the multiple times, like, okay, it should, like, in his opinion, it should take this much time to be reviewing plans. How much are they actually spending reviewing plans and that we're getting charged for versus what, if things are running correctly, we should be spending? I don't know what that is, and I don't.
Yeah, and if we had more
And he didn't
detail
know either off
on
the
the
top of his
bills.
head. He needs to look, but,
You
I
need
do
more
think we
billing
need to address
detail.
it. Yeah.
Again, because you putting miscellaneous, actually calling a charge of miscellaneous for an engineering firm, they should not be doing that.
Yeah.
If we had a better breakdown, we'd know how much money we were spending on that.
Yeah.
Plan review,
Yeah, and we're happy to,
you know,
I hear the feedback. We're happy to implement that. It's no problem whatsoever. And then report back to council in January where we are with perhaps some revisions proposed for council to consider to the fee schedule.
that would be good.
So if something is rejected or, fails inspection, is it because of not in compliance with development ordinance or a state ordinance?
Are we talking about inspection when they're out and about?
Different.
It depends on what's being done. So like a proof roll, for example, if they're out there to observe that, they're calling us, they let us know it's ready. And then there are certain levels of compaction that it has to meet. You can't move, like that fresh asphalt can't move. They do this drive across thing, a weighted truck, and if it's moving, it fails. So it's X. So basically they have to.
But they come in these things and you can look at it and see, he pulls up and he goes, they're not ready. Why am I even here?
Sometimes.
And that's
simple thing.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I had said to Josh, I said, can we do something as simple as, like, when you call in for the inspection, you have to, like, text a photo or something of that you're ready? I don't know if the miscommunication is between the person that's working for the developer is in an office somewhere and been told to call in for inspection.
I'm thinking about inspection of blueprints that have been submitted.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, we're talking about that too. But Aaron's talking about from
It's one thing that they've
You're not
started.
talking about on site.
Yeah, I'm
you're
not
talking
talking
about
about. I'm
prior
talking
to
about
that.
Paperwork,
yeah.
that they're reviewing the blueprints, that it's meeting all the, state requirements and our local requirements, whatever.
So when a set of plans are submitted for, say, TRC review, for example, all departments are reviewing it. Fire, well, he's not here. Fire,
He
of
was.
course, engineering, DOT, course, Cameron,
Public works.
utilities.
They give them like 20 different things and
Yeah.
then they come back and 2 of the 20 things they've done.
Yeah, so I mean, all these
That's what
departments,
Yeah, that's
I'm
what the
hearing him
complaint is,
say.
yeah.
not everyone's created equal. I think logically you're correct. You would think someone that is trained to do what they're submitting for review would have a lot of this buttoned up and taken care of. That's just not the case. Megan, you know, she's been privy to some poor engineering that we've had to go back and forth. Brian can speak, you know what I'm talking about. But there are these moments that we do have where engineering is not to the level that you would expect if someone's putting their stamp on it. I would love that to be the case. I would love that that stamp would carry a little more weight to what you're looking at, but that's not always the case.
So what is the consensus of does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve AWCK for Municipal Engineering Services. But I also would like some feedback in December from them on the rate fees and changes in the billing.
Okay.
I want to see a lot more detail in their billing.
Madam Mayor, I second the motion.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We'll move on to public comment period. Is there anybody that signed up for public comment? City staff comments? Got to get Renee to this dinner. City,
I think she's already blown that.
city council comments?
I got something. I've mentioned it before about city council actually owning property in Graham. And you kind of, what you said, Mayor Talley, when you were talking about we all pay property tax. But there, you can run for council without owning property. You could rent. So I don't know that, is there a way to look at if that's okay to look into, if you have to be a property owner to be on council? Is that?
Is there any kind of law for that?
I don't know if there is a law for that. My guess is if you are a registered voter in that jurisdiction, that would make you eligible in accordance with state law. What I am not sure of is if you can maybe amend your local charter to make it more specific. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know.
I haven't been to law school, so I'm.
Okay.
You can.
That's
you
too
can check
bad.
with your attorney, but,
Okay,
you cannot add that kind of layer of requirement.
okay. We just,
Too bad.
when she said that,
They got no
you know,
skin
we
in
all
the
pay
game.
property tax. So we're all in the same boat, but you could have 4 people
Well,
up
I'm
here
just
that
talking
rent.
about.
This
us.
I know,
Council's all
you
in the
got,
same
you
boat.
you could years down the road have,
The theory is,
you know, 4 people that rent and they don't pay property tax. So they don't care what the property tax is.
the theory is that renters are affected ultimately by property.
The rent
taxes
goes up.
That the
Rent
goes
goes,
up.
landowner, apartment owner, whoever is.
passes
paying.
that down to them.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's the theory.
Theory.
But I mean, this.
I don't like
changed
that
in the
theory.
Okay.
1800s.
I was just
Changed
curious
property.
because of this, yeah, I was just curious because of budget discussion tonight
Yeah.
that if that was even something we could look at. So, thank you.
Got anything? Got anything, Bonnie?
Oh, man.
Hey, I have just, something real simple, real fast. We've got, a hike. These are some events, a hike that is on June the 14th out to for all the people that climb stuff that's illegal, water towers and everything. We've got a lookout tower that's just been built by the county. That's out in the middle of the woods on,
See it from my house.
Cane Mountain and Snow Camp. But you hike out, you can hike out there and they'll get you back to your car. But you get all the way up into the top of the tower and you can see everything from everywhere.
I'm a hard no.
If you come.
Can you
hey,
drive
if
to
you
the
come-
tower?
Turn on Palmer going to my house, you can actually see the tower.
It's really
From my house.
cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a cool thing to go do. It's out on Cane Creek Trail and it's gonna be June the 14th. They are going to have, we've got the Juneteenth celebration on June the 21st. We've got the Dalton Davis will be playing a concert on June the 21st as well, and a car show that day at 4 o'clock, and the concert will start at 7. Thursdays at 7, we'll have Fat City on June the 26th. Slice of Summer will be June the 28th. And there will be a 8K run benefiting Alco Vets with the Burlington Sock Puppets. They'll be doing a race there, starting out at the Coliseum, right? Okay. Proceeds benefit Alco Vets. I thought you knew about that. The 8K race?
I knew that.
Yeah, that they're
Josh was
doing, yeah.
putting it on, but I
Mhm.
wasn't sure about.
Yep, so, that's what we have going on for June. So to see a list of events, you can go to visitgrahamnc.com. So for anyone that is watching, we appreciate you tuning in. That's all the comments that I had. Appreciate all the hard work, from the staff on the budget and, all the work you do for all these software transitions that absolutely needed to be done. Appreciate all your hard work that the rec department does as well. So do I hear a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion with adjourn, ma'am.
Second,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.